Oh, it's a tough day for the crowd who says, I want to turn the clock back and make these college athletes get nothing the way that it used to be. You guys are having a tough day. Can we hug it out? We're offering free hugs here at 25 Garlington Road for those of you who are fighting with your feelings today. Cole, the ruling came down on Friday, and I wasn't here to talk about it. House versus NCAA has been settled. I know you got into a little bit of that. We're going to kind of rehash a little bit of that in this segment and get to some of what SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey had to say in his pre-SEC meetings speech. But, man, it's good to be back.
It's good to have you back.
Yeah.
You know, I was surprised, though, Diesel, that on Friday, the reaction that we got from the texters as well as the ones that called in, I was very surprised that it was mostly positive.
Really?
There were very little negative tolos on Friday when we were talking about the NCAA settlement.
Well, do they know that this opens them up to a lot of money, just shy of $3 billion, a piece of that, a piece of revenue sharing in the future, which would equate to a share of roughly 22% of the entire university's revenue. And they'll still get NIL on top of that.
Cha-ching!
This is where this gets real murky. So those of you who maybe didn't know all the details, and so we still don't know the details either. Like even Greg Sankey is saying, and again, we're going to get into this here in this first segment. Even Greg Sankey is saying there is still an awful lot to be decided as this moves forward. I mean, are we gonna see the end of these massive $14 million promises like Jaden Rashada was promised to come to Florida? I don't know. Nothing that I've read so far, Cole, says that those are going bye-bye.
The only thing that I can take away, one of the things that I take away, Diesel, is I said it on Friday. What a fantastic time to be a college student athlete.
Oh, my God.
I mean, not only NIL, but now the schools, we're talking millions.
How much would it suck to have gotten out of school 1 year prior to this? Goes back to 2016. Players all the way back to 2016 are going to get a piece of this. What if you graduated in 2015? You'll get nothing.
When did Johnny football graduate?
Oh my God. It's crazy how this is going down. By the way, you Tolos, turn it on and leave it on. Hope you're watching on the stream. Hopefully, if you have not yet gotten into the stream, please do. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can text into the show. You Tolo texters, 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. You can always call in to the station as well, 844-FAN phone. But Cole, man, this is a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money that is now going to be made available to some of these student athletes. I mean, they don't have to take it. If they want to retain the right to sue the NCAA, they don't have to take it. But as soon as they take a dime, boom, you lose your legal rights to sue.
And that's one of the very first things that I thought about, Diesel, was what happens to those past athletes. And for the record, I looked up like a guy like Johnny Manziel who left A&M in 2013. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago.
Well,
man, it was, though.
Didn't he talk about not long ago about how much money he was making on the side? So
and how much he would have made with NIL.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he's got a huge leg to stand on, but hey, we'll see.
There's so much to break down. There's so many questions. And one thing, Diesel, that I want to reiterate that I said Friday, there are still a ton of decisions and details and information that has not come out about this new ruling in terms of the NCAA having to back up the Brinks truck.
And just give you a heads up, what else we have coming up on the show today. In the next segment, we're going to react to Clemson and South Carolina, where they sit in the regional situation. Clemson is hosting. We thought maybe South Carolina would be put in their regional so that we could get us Palmetto baseball fans might be made whole.
Yeah.
And we would get our missing South Carolina Clemson game. Well, we're going to have to keep on waiting. Coming up at 4 o'clock, we'll bring on Jake Mastriani from Locked On Braves. You can find him on Twitter at ShortstopBall. A lot to talk about with the Atlanta Braves and just the way they are slumping right now. We'll get into the NBA conference finals. We'll get into a lot of different things, Cole. We'll also have the 5 o'clock fight coming up. But so to recap, though, Cole, for those who don't know, again, roughly $2.8 billion will go to around 10 to 15,000 former athletes as back pay and current athletes ranging back to 2016 going through 2026. If the NCAA did not settle, they would pay roughly 10 times what they settled for. They'd owe around $20 billion, possibly, with the amount of money that they would owe athletes. This thing it's been kind of the black cloud that's looming over the NCAA's head and college football as a whole over the past year or so. And Greg Sankey, Cole, finally had their SEC meetings, or the pre-meetings for the SEC meetings. And he did say again that they got a lot of hurdles before revenue sharing begins. He said that getting any action regarding Congress passing any legislation that would stave off future litigation is at the moment unlikely between now and the upcoming election. We ask a lot of questions with this, Cole. Like, how are athletic departments across the country going to afford revenue sharing with these players?
Yeah.
I mean, the number is 22%. They cannot go over 22% of revenue. And for the biggest schools, 22%, I mean, it's going to hurt. And nobody likes losing 22% of their revenue. But I'm thinking about the smaller schools, Cole. I'm thinking about Coastal Carolina and Georgia Southern and App State and Charlotte and East Carolina. They're not getting 50, 60, 75 million dollars a year.
Correct.
In conference payouts. So how are they going to afford losing 22% of their revenue?
Yeah, and
that's going to be a scary thing for those schools.
And I asked the question as well, Diesel, when you talk about this money that's being brought in to these athletic departments, and we know that a large majority of the money, the dollar, comes from football. And before I get to some of this Pat 40 audio, which is really fascinating, Diesel, my biggest question is, will we see a decline in facilities and other areas of the athletic department, staffing, facilities, etc., because the money that was once allocated to that area is now going to be transitioned into the player's pocket?
I don't know. I mean, facilities across the board, at least at Power 5 schools, are mostly pretty nice. I mean, it shocks me that, what was it, just like a year ago, Florida got an indoor practice facility?
Yeah.
Which is nuts, because I don't know if you're aware of this, Cole, but it's hot AF in Gainesville, Florida. So not practicing outside when it's 110 degrees and 92% humidity might be advantageous, or not having to call practices because it's so hot might be advantageous. But I think for the most part, Vandy's football stadium notwithstanding, facilities are pretty okay. I'm not worried about it. Maybe they don't get to do the enhancements that they wanted to do for a while.
Yeah.
And you know, how many former Power 5 coaches who dropped down to the G5, who then weren't very successful there either, are unpaid interns and unpaid analysts on like Nick Saban's staff at Alabama. And you know, so some of these guys are taking unpaid jobs because they're already rich. Like, they don't really need it. What was it? The Terry Bowden, the one that's shaped like a member of the Lollipop Guild? That dude is rich. He doesn't need an additional salary from whatever school he's with now. But I think we may see an increase in that.
Well, you know, I think it's going to be fascinating. And a couple of things. We've seen the demise of the sport in terms of it being once an amateur sport, Diesel. That is now
gone.
It was almost gone already. However, it's completely gone now, right? I do think it's very interesting that when you're talking about these colleges having the money to allocate to the student athletes, the colleges, in my opinion, from the things that I've heard, the colleges probably, Diesel, will be able to decide college by college, institution by institution, how much money's being allocated and where. I do not think you will see the NCAA or any organization try to put a term or a number or limits on how much money should go to the players and where it should go in terms of what sport.
Well, the only thing we have is this 22% number.
Yeah.
And it says that is the cap. That is the effective cap. So the school can't spend any more than that. They don't have to spend all 22%, but most will.
So Pat 40, Diesel, who we know used to be with ESPN, right? Now with Sports Illustrated. He had a really good interview, and I cut it up into several pieces, and I want to play the first piece of audio right here. In terms of a general sense of what this means for college athletics. He also goes into a little bit later in Title IX and also players becoming employees, and we'll get to that. But here's Pat Forty on what this means in his opinion, because this guy's been covering college sports for a long, long time.
Well, how this actually is going to be divided up is going to be one of the great sources of curiosity and ultimately controversy, I would imagine. As it stands now, it seems like the preponderance of thought is to make this an institution by institution decision. This will not be like a nationally mandated pay scale. There will not probably be conferences dictating how much is going to go to which athletes or which sports. It'll be up to each school to decide whether they can afford a full $21-22 million a year in revenue for the athletes, or if they want to pay something less than that, and then how that is divided up. Obviously, the football players, the men's basketball players, and probably increasingly women's basketball players will get the majority of this. But then even within a team, what sort of parameters are put on in terms of performance or, recruiting star power or experience as far as who gets what. That's all that's going to have to be sussed out at the institution level. And it's going to be quite a process to get to those deliberations.
Yeah, so there's so much still to be uncovered.
This is such a tangled web.
Yeah.
That they're going to have to deal with. I mean, I've seen proposed pay structures of first string players at each position make this, second string players make this. And then if you add a performance pay scale, which could either increase or decrease their money based on how they're performing. I mean, let's just say, for example, you're a starting quarterback and you're due to receive $50,000 in revenue. And I'm just making this number up off the top of my head, right? $50K. Well, you're expected to have this many touchdowns and this many wins.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? If you go out and get 10 more touchdowns and 1 or 2 more wins on the season, you can get a little bonus at the end of the year.
I'll tell you.
Or if you suck and throw a bunch of picks, guess what? You're dropping from 50 down to 10.
I'll tell you what's fascinating, and I could be wrong, but I will go out on a limb, Diesel, and say that over the next 10 years, more money will be discussed. We'll have more money discussions when it comes to college athletics than we will about the freaking NFL. What's that tell you?
Think about how many people, Cole, are going to be employed by all of this.
Yeah.
School by school making these decisions. It's going to take lawyers and analysts and economists and mathematicians. And, how much is it going to take to be able to put this into practice on an institution by institution base? So that's what concerns me a little bit there, Cole, is the fact that this is not a conference decision where the conference can employ a group of 25 people, whatever it takes, a committee to decide what the pay scales are going to be and say, all right, everybody in our institute, everybody in our conference is going to be dealing with this on these terms. Go have fun, knock yourselves out.
Do you not?
So now it's going to be, I don't like it being a school by school decision.
Okay.
No, I don't. I don't like it being different across the board, because then every school will use this in a way. They'll do the bare minimum for female athletes and the non-revenue generating sports, and they will throw everything at football. And you could say, well, that's fair, right? Because football generates the most money.
Sure.
But, Cole, like you and I both know that this is going to be used in a way, it's going to be weaponized in a way to be used for recruiting. We all know this.
It will be, and I'm curious, though, like when we talk about what Pat Forty said, Diesel, with institution by institution, I'm curious to know what people think. When I asked your opinion on if you like it or not, I'm curious to what the general consensus is, because at the end of the day, the schools with the most cha-ching, right, are going to be the ones that are going to be able to afford the top recruits. To your point, it is going to go back to recruiting. However, is there any guidelines that could be set from a conference standpoint that could make it fair for like, let's say for a Bama versus a Vandy?
I think there could be minimum percentages of spending have to be allocated to this, and this.
Yeah.
Like you can't just do the bare minimum on in column A and move it all over to column B, for example, Cole. But I mean, again, you and I both know there's going to be a lot of people making a lot of money off of this. The lawyers, the analysts, the suits, they're going to make a ton of money off of this. There's a lot more that came out of Greg Sankey's speech, Cole, that I think you're going to find really interesting because you like to do a little bit of betting.
Yeah.
There have been talks of an availability report that will reveal who is out and off of rosters 24 hours before a game is set to begin. So for those of you who like to gamble, and we all know like it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, this feels like it's meant to appease the gambling industry. And like it's a concession that they're making to them. He said, Greg Sankey did say in his early speech, don't expect a lot of conversation this week about the 9-game schedule debate in the SEC. So we're not going to really see that be a big part of the conversation there. But that's the big one. Is essentially an injury report 24 hours in advance for you gamblers.
Texter from the 432 says, waiting on my $17 check from PC. I like it.
Oh, that's funny.
A whole $17.
Yeah, but who says no to $17?
It's true.
That's lunch. Because lunch is damned expensive nowadays, right? You can't go get a sandwich for $17.
I would love to hear from any former college players that are in our audience, Diesel, that have had recent college athletic success. Because as you said, and I want to get to this Title IX thing in a second, as you said, it's not only affecting present, but past 16, that's almost 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of athletes, man. That's a lot.
Yeah, Title IX is going to be a big issue. You're going back. You're going to have to budget money to student athletes who essentially lost you money. You're going to have to pay money to people who lost you money just to keep this thing fair.
So my question to that is, who's getting more? Or is an equal cut from the women's sports versus the men's sports? Is it going to be an equal cut? I do have 40 seconds of audio from Pat 40 on Title IX.
Well, that's going to be another fascinating element of this because obviously, Title IX has really changed the game in terms of allowing females equal opportunity or near equal opportunity to play their sports in college to the men. But is equal opportunity the same as equal compensation? So far in the NIL era, it hasn't been. The most NIL dollars have gone to men's football, men's basketball, and football players. So does this ruling have an effect on that and say, no, women have to be compensated in a similar manner in terms of the actual outlay of money, or just maybe the number of female athletes has to be somewhat commensurate or proportional to the men? And then you decide what the money is. But that's going to be, I think, a major flashpoint of this. I think we're going to be hearing a lot about that in the next year plus.
That's the biggest question. How are you going to – because he hit the nail on the head. Equal compensation doesn't happen with NIL, right? In terms of men and women's sports.
Yeah, there are some female athletes who are making a ton of money in NIL.
Sure.
But the vast majority are not. There's only a handful of Caitlin Clarks and Angel Reese's and blanking on her name now, the really talented gymnast from LSU.
Livy Dunn?
Livy Dunn.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
the one.
yeah.
She's really good at what she does.
She is.
I mean, there's only a handful of them who are making buku money off of NIL, and most female athletes are not. When you compare that to the percentage of male athletes who are actually profiting off of their NIL. But I wonder, Cole, are they going to make this a function of your individual sports budget? So will we see, you brought this up, will we see universities slashing budgets in sports so that they can shave a little bit of money off of what they owe to the student athletes who play that sport? Wait, why not you could reduce your the amount of money that you owe your lacrosse players.
Sure.
If you cut 10% off the lacrosse budget.
Will we see sports get cut?
Will we see schools dropping down to FCS to not have to pay as much money?
Well,
I mean, that's one thing that I'm really scared of, Cole, here, is seeing a handful of schools. We saw Idaho do it a few years ago, drop back down to the FCS. Now they were running roughshod over teams in the FCS, and that was great to see that program come back and actually start winning again. But will we see some, especially the newer group of 5 schools who don't have quite the money that some of the more established ones have, or especially the AAC? Will we see them drop down? I mean, will the NCAA essentially provide gap insurance for schools that can't cover this budget? I mean, there's so much going on here.
David on the stream on our Facebook page says everybody is going to become the Browns facility-wise. Come on, I hope not. That won't, you know what, though? Like, it was a question I asked. It is curious. And then, Diesel, lastly, the last question I ask. We talked about this, you and I have. I talked about this a lot on Friday. To me, it seems like very soon we're going to have collective bargaining with the players because them not being employees kind of seems like a missing piece in this for me.
Yeah. And again, what are they going to have to give up
Sure.
to be able to get players to agree to this? I mean, players don't necessarily have to opt in to revenue sharing.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably not going to be a whole lot who opt out of it, but if you do opt out, you're doing so because you believe you still have something to gain by suing the NCAA and by suing these institutions, and that is one of the rules. That is one of the proposed concessions. Is if you still want to be able to sue the NCAA, well, then you're gonna miss out on this cut of 22%.
That very question was asked to Pat Forty. His response is fascinating. This is the last piece of audio I have from Pat Forty.
That's an attempt to thread the needle here by the NCAA and by college athletics. Once again, they've been playing the thread the needle game for time immemorial of these people probably are employees in a business setting, but they don't want to be classified as such, and they don't want to have to face antitrust legislation along those grounds. So what they are hoping is for the significant movement here to get the attention and the motivation of Congress to help come up with some antitrust exemption for college athletics to protect it from further lawsuits, and to have a system where athletes are sharing in revenue, where they are being compensated, but they are not necessarily considered employees of the university.
Yeah, and
wow,
another wrinkle to the employment question is taxation. Are you going to tax these student athletes? Greg Sankey said that he hasn't received a lot of feedback from players on collective bargaining yet. He said, quote, "I have not had a student athlete come to me and say, I want to be taxed like an employee."
How many student athletes have Greg Sankey's phone number or a Snapchat where they can ask him, hey?
Fantastic question. I mean, you know what? If it's anything like putting in a ticket here with Odyssey, it might take weeks to get a response back.
It is fascinating, though, about the taxation. In my opinion, I make money. I'm taxed.
Yeah. It's
Why
a valuable life
be?
lesson.
Yeah.
It's a value. You know what? It's a valuable life lesson. And maybe these kids have to choose. Do I want this compensation package that puts me in this tax bracket?
Sure.
Do I want this compensation package that puts me in that tax bracket? Would I want to defer all of it? So it's just such a murky situation that I don't see just my mind says this is going to take years to decide how to deal with this situation, especially if we're dealing with it from a school by school basis. I'm sure these conferences are going to provide some sort of guidelines.
Yeah.
Here's what we think you should do. Make your own decisions based off of this. But man, it is murky. It is ugly. And some people, not all of them student athletes, are going to get really, really rich off of this.
I'm with you. It does seem like a tall task to flip in a year, right? 1 year seems awful quick because they said 2025, and that's next season. That's next year, and it'll be here quickly. So we'll see if they can get it all sorted out by then. As you said, though, Diesel, a lot of people, judges, lawyers, accountants, are going to have to be involved. What a great time to be in that industry, right? Coming up on the very next side of in the very next segment, if you will. Diesel, South Carolina and Clemson baseball both find themselves in the postseason. Our reaction to where they are and what team has a better chance of making a postseason run. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is The Fan Upstate. We asked a question on Friday, how many teams from South Carolina would get in? Well, we have our answer, and the Gamecocks, the Tigers, the teams that we cover mostly right here on this station, they are in, Diesel. South Carolina, Clemson, both in the tournament. Even though South Carolina fans hate their coach, they are supposedly pulling for him to take them to the promised land.
Ooh, that's a fascinating poll, and we're not going to get the truth on that, Cole. We should put that up as a poll.
I did.
How many Gamecock fans want to see the team lose?
I did on Friday
to get rid of.
It was 75-25.
75% said win and keep him.
75. So I asked the question on Twitter. Do you basically the same thing we did with Brown Owl, right?
Yeah.
Do you pull for your team to lose to get the coach fired? And 75% said no. You always pull for your team regardless, right?
Liars.
I think so too.
Half of that, at least half of that 75% is lying.
25% said publicly, no, we'll pull for them to lose.
Jeez.
We did. I could not believe it. It was fascinating. And it got, as you can imagine, Diesel, on our Facebook page at the Fan Upstate, there were some fun comments, to say the least.
How dare you?
What a stupid question. Why would you ask such a question? Well, 25% agreed. That's better than nothing, right? So no surprise that Clemson is hosting, Diesel. South Carolina, as you mentioned earlier in the show, did not make the Clemson regional. Clemson hosting High Point, Coastal Carolina, and Vanderbilt.
Ooh.
So let's park on that Clemson regional for a second.
Yeah.
Your instant reaction, I mean, those are some good baseball teams.
Those are some good baseball teams. Coastal fell off down the stretch.
Sure.
I'd have to look back and see what they did in the Sun Belt tournament to tell me if I think Coastal is in a little bit of an upswing here coming down the stretch. I don't know. Let me look at their schedule here.
I'll tell you this. Vanderbilt, while Vanderbilt's a good team, they are not the Vanderbilt of old. So a lot of people see that and say, wow, oh, Clemson got Vandy.
Coastal 34-23 on the season.
Okay. So
just barely above 500 in a decently tough, probably the toughest group of 5 schedule. So they lost, they lost down the stretch two in a row to end the season. They played 3 total games in the Sun Belt Conference tournament, 1 against Georgia State, lost to Southern Miss, and lost to App State.
Yep. That's right.
Man, I'm not with having Coastal in this thing.
So we're going to get to that point a little bit later in the show. So I'll do a quick tease. I have some audio coming up at, let's see here, 5:20 today. We played audio, Diesel, Friday when you were gone from Gary Gilmore. And I also have some Chad Holbrook audio, which is fascinating because I will tell you as a tease, I don't think the right team got in from the lower part of the state. I really don't. So Clemson, looking at their regional, Clemson, High Point, Vandy, and Coastal, while Vandy's a little bit down in terms of like the Vandy standard, Vanderbilt, Clemson, to me, are going to be the ones battling to advance to the Super Regional. In the Raleigh Regional, Diesel, hosted by the number 10 national seed, NC State, you have NC State, Bryant, James Madison, and the Fighting Mark Kingstons of South Carolina. Initial reaction, okay? Initial reaction. NC State's good. They're a good team. However, if South Carolina can continue to score runs like they did in the SEC tournament, Diesel, they have a shot at getting out of this thing, man.
Isn't it fascinating? We can essentially have the same debate we have every football season. And we ask the question, are the middle-of-the-road SEC programs better than the top end of the ACC?
Find out.
And we're going to find that out.
Yep.
NC State, top end of the ACC, South Carolina, mid-pack, SEC. We have that debate in football every year, and we're going to find out right here and right now. Is the ACC better than the SEC in baseball? I mean, we know what the conference RPI says. We know what we think the eye test of having played a tough schedule all season long is going to say. Seems as if South Carolina turned something around and turned something on in the SEC tournament. So they're playing hot baseball right now.
The question is, though, like for South Carolina, we know that when you get to this point, Diesel, you have to have some solid pitching, right? You're going to face some good pitchers. You better be able to hold some teams down. South Carolina, while they've been hot offensively, while they've been able to score runs, they haven't been able to hold teams down. Now, granted, very fair point. Clemson hasn't either. Clemson's allowed a lot of runs, right? Both teams are allowing runs. South Carolina's going to have to figure out how to get the most of their current pitching and see if they can at least get to the bullpen and have the bullpen give you a shot against a team like NC State. I do think they fare good against James Madison, but you're right. We're going to find out. NC State, South Carolina, eventually, in my opinion, is the middle of the pack of the SEC better. It's fascinating, though. Here's the fascinating part, Diesel. South Carolina and Clemson both, every team right now, but South Carolina specifically, as much as we've talked about all season, Mark Kingston and South Carolina fans disgust with Kingston, right? Here's what's fascinating. As of right now, today, South Carolina, they're 5 wins away from the World Series. So, yes, their pitching struggled. Yes, their starting rotation has been abysmal at times this year, right? However, they showed in the SEC tournament that they can hit the ball. They played well. They didn't play well enough to win. They had far too many errors, which was what lost them the SEC tournament. If we're being honest, it was the errors in the infield, first base and third base specifically. But they are 5 wins away from making a run and putting South Carolina fans in a very, very tough position, because if they go on a 5-game run, Diesel, there are going to be crows. We don't have many crow buffets here in the upstate.
There's not enough barbecue sauce, mustard, or molasses or vinegar based to cover up that taste of crow.
And there's going to be plenty of crow to serve, crow aplenty, if the Gamecocks go on a run. I asked the question, though, to you, Diesel, as well as the audience. If you're Clemson or South Carolina, looking at the two regionals, who do you think has a better shot to get out? South Carolina, again, Gamecocks, James Madison, Bryant, and NC State. Clemson, they have Clemson, High Point, Vandy, and Coastal.
I think Clemson has a little bit better chance to get out, but not by much. I mean, South Carolina is going to face the tougher opponent in NC State.
Sure.
They're going to be punching up at NC State.
Mm-hmm.
But, looking at who else is in that region with them, James Madison, good baseball team, not elite, 34-23 on the season. Bryant, small school, 36-19. Again, nothing says you can't be a small school and advance and win this whole thing.
That's
Coastal
right.
Carolina did it a couple of years ago. But I think South Carolina is going to have a little bit tougher of a ride in Raleigh than Clemson will. They have their own friendly confines. Vanderbilt is not, like you said, not the Vanderbilt of old. Coastal Carolina is not the Coastal Carolina of old. High Point, I think, is probably going to be a little bit of an easier opponent than Bryant will be in the Raleigh regional. So I think South Carolina is going to have a little tougher time.
Diesel, let's look. I'm looking right now, just so you know. Let's look and see how NC State did, who's a good team, how they did against SEC teams.
Well, while we do that call, I'll let you grab this phone call here, but I'll get some of these text messages here. Texter says, everybody, let's see, everyone at Doug Kingsmore Stadium needs to have earplugs on standby this weekend because of the Vandy Whistler.
Really
a texter says, at this point, it will take at least Omaha for me to start grabbing my bags to get off the Fire Kingston train.
Yeah.
Which is not dissimilar from the conversation we had regarding Brad Brownell. We said, I think I said he's going to have to make the Final Four to get me off of that train with him. Finally, a texter says, but if I see the same terrible coaching decisions and awful defense and fundamentals, I'll stay right on this train in my warm seat. That's the texter who said it would take Omaha to get him to pick up his bags and get off the train.
I like it. And just FYI, we are having some phone issues today. They are currently under construction. So if you want to get in touch with the show, text us. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Here's what's fascinating, Diesel. NC State baseball, 33-20, 18-11 in conference. You mentioned this is who South Carolina is going to have to get through, right? We would assume. Diesel, if you were to ask me the question, Cole, how did NC State do this season against SEC schools? You know what my answer would be to you, Diesel? Do you want to take a guess?
I'm going to say they went over.
They went over because they didn't play any SEC schools.
Okay. I figure because you asked me this question, the way you asked me this question
is a
felt
trick
leading.
question. Yes. Yeah. So they did not play 2024 schedule. No, sir. No, sir.
Come on. Who's putting that schedule together?
Here you go. Here's your out of conference schedule for NC State. VCU, Hawaii, Townsend, Winthrop, UNCG, and then they get into conference. So, again,
oh, wow.
You don't really know how good this NC State team is out of conference, right? They did not fare well in the ACC tournament. They lost 8-1 to Duke. They were in Pool C. They did win over Virginia Tech, Diesel, but I think that South Carolina, to answer my own question, I think they have a decent shot of getting out.
Yeah, I mean, it's designed. Clearly, the Clemson Regional is designed for Clemson to get out of it. We'll see what happens there. They're very inconsistent with the way they played coming down the stretch. I mean, look at the Miami game there in the ACC tournament. And then, of course, when a game doesn't matter, that's when they go ham and they blow the doors off of Louisville. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Cole, coming up next on the other side, we're going to get you caught up with the buzz, the daily wires that are happening in sports. If you missed anything over the weekend, over the long Memorial Day weekend, we'll get you caught up. That's on the other side right here on the Fan Upstate. Bum, 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 bum. Cole, I've been out of the loop, man. 4 days not being on the show, out sick Friday. Thank you for holding down the fort.
Yeah, I had to show you where the studio was today.
Yeah, we got lost. Somebody was screaming Marco Polo from down the hallway. And then, of course, we were out for Memorial Day yesterday. Thank you to everybody who's served and given the ultimate sacrifice, and to their families for making this country possible. But to catch up on what's gone on over the past couple of days, Cole, if you've been out of the loop and not in the know, this is what this segment is all about. These are your daily wires. This is the Daily Buzz happening in sports. Number one, Ronald Acuna Jr. has been ruled out for the season. With a torn ACL. Man, starting fresh, starting happy with Ronald Acuna. God, that sucks.
All right, I've had enough of this segment. Can we move on?
To make it even better, Cole, the Braves have lost 3 out of their last 4 with a loss to Washington yesterday, 8-4. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Pirates over the weekend. So you're losing a lot of games. You're losing your star players. Ouch. Tough time to be a Braves fan. 4 teams from South Carolina made the NCAA tournament in baseball. Clemson, South Carolina, Coastal Carolina, and Wofford. I know we have some fantastic audio from Mark Kingston down at College of Charleston talking about his team not making the tournament. We were expecting or hoping for 5. We got 4, so it's still pretty good for the Palmetto State. Just sucks for those players down there at College of Charleston. The Dallas Mavericks lead the Minnesota Timberwolves 3-0. Game 4 is tonight at 8:30. Boston, they'll face Boston. The winner of that will face Boston, who defeated Indiana last night 105-102. Swept the series. Am I right?
That's right.
Oof. So we might have 2 sweeps in the conference finals to get to the finals. Look, if one team is going to sweep, I'm happy that the other series is not going to 7 just to wear that team out, because very often that's what happens is you wear that team out and they just don't have what it takes to get it done in a long series in the finals. The Rangers lead the Panthers 2-1. Game 4 is tonight at 8:00. Remember, the Rangers are the ones who knocked out the Carolina Hurricanes. Duke won the ACC baseball tournament. Wofford won the SoCon baseball tournament.
How about Wofford, man?
Yeah, man. Was Wofford on the radar? Were they one of those teams that we expected to get in?
Well, they started the year off incredible.
Yeah.
And then they just, they played good baseball throughout. They weren't world beaters. They beat Sanford twice on Sunday. I went to the game Friday morning before the show and watched Wofford, and they won. They lost on Saturday, and you know what? Having to beat a team twice, Diesel, that's tough. But
came out of the losers bracket.
Yeah, they're impressive.
Again, what matters is playing good hot baseball right now, and Wofford's doing it. Tennessee won the SEC baseball tournament. Cole, you and I had some things to say about the ACC pool play and Clemson winning their final game in the ACC tournament, but not advancing.
Yep.
I don't like that system at all. I mean, it puts you in a position where you're possibly injuring players for literally nothing. I mean, why would you not go out there and run your entire second string if that's the case? Like, why are you even playing your starters in the ACC tournament?
But ask a Clemson guy. They love it. They love it. They have to defend the ACC and everything. Like if the ACC, burns down 18 different skyscrapers, they deserve. It's ridiculous that the Clemson people, and I'm not calling names, but Diesel, that we have to act like, just because you're in the ACC, you have to defend everything they do. It's embarrassing.
Well, the SEC played a tournament similar, exactly like what they played in the SEC, and then they just changed their minds and said, let's go to this pool play. For what reason? I don't know. I don't understand. Maybe it's to get a better look at some players that are on some teams that are on the bubble. I don't understand.
Theft, murder, it doesn't matter. The ACC, we're in the ACC. We got to defend them. It's just a bad look.
Back down to Atlanta, Cole. Max Fried is on the mound tonight for Atlanta as they take on Washington at 7:20. Coca-Cola 600 was cut short, about 150 laps short due to rain. Christopher Bell won the Coca-Cola 600. I tried to watch the 600 on Sunday afternoon, Cole. I'm going to be real with you. I thought it was boring as hell.
Yeah.
I tried to watch it. I have nostalgic feelings for that race, for that track. I spent every May and October camping in the infield and watching races. But I'm going to tell you, I thought it sucked. I thought it was boring. I don't like these segments. I don't like stopping the race and everybody gets out and, has a latte or whatever it is they do. I don't get it.
I was at someone's house where they had it on, Diesel, but it wasn't like I was intentionally watching.
How good is a sport if you are allowed to essentially stop paying attention to it for 90% of it and only watch the final, 10 laps and say, ooh, that was a really good race.
Sure.
It's just not. It's just not. Angel Hernandez, a lot of people are happy about this. Angel Hernandez is officially set to retire from Major League Baseball. He was that guy that everybody always complained about, bitched and moaned about Angel Hernandez. And now that he's gone out of the league, Cole, there's not going to be a single disputed call ever again.
You know what? It's a good thing. It's a good day for the MLB. There are other umpires who are bad, but Angel Hernandez has had the worst rap ever. Do you know that in a span of 10 games one time, Diesel, this is no lie. This is factual. In a span of 10 games, he missed 110 calls in 10 games.
What's the average? If he's missing 10 calls a game, 10 balls and strikes, you mean? Is that what you mean by 10 calls?
Yeah.
Okay. If he's missing 10 calls a game, well, I wonder what the average is.
I don't know, but that's bad.
And then finally, Cole, legendary NBA player and commentator Bill Walton has passed away at the age of 71 after a battle with cancer. It's so sad. I mean, Bill, he's been everywhere on broadcasts, even non-basketball broadcasts over the past 5 to 10 years. The guy, he was nothing but personality. So it's really sad to see him lose his fight with cancer at 71. Hey, when we come back, Cole, we are going to efforts, fingers crossed, hopefully we can get these phone lines to work out for us. Jake Mastriani of the Locked On Braves podcast. We'll talk all things Braves. So if you've got questions about pitching, about hitting, about Acuna's injury, anything, now would be a good time to start texting it in. 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. We'll effort Jake next here on the Fan Upstate. It's Wire to Wire. He's Cole Bryson. My name is Diesel. And man, it's a tough day. It's been a tough couple of weeks if you're an Atlanta Braves fan. So why not have a group therapy session and bring on the guy who knows everything about the Braves, the best one to make us all feel better about it, hopefully. You can find him on Twitter at @shortstopball. Jake Mastriani, the host of the Locked On Braves podcast. Jake, we appreciate your time. Can you make us feel maybe just a little bit better about what we're seeing over the past 5 or 6 games with all of the injuries?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing I can say is you're getting Austin Riley and Sean Murphy back, and hopefully that's going to help get an offense going. That's been rough, even with Ronald Acuna Jr., and certainly I would rather have him than not. But, I think this offense still has plenty of talent there and is capable of still accomplishing all the goals that they set out to. And just you lose Spencer Strider, you lose Ronald Acuna Jr., that's going to make it a lot harder. But this is why they were one of the favorites coming into the season, because it is such a deep team, and they're probably one of very few teams, maybe them and the Dodgers, that could lose their best pitcher, their best position player, and still have a talented enough team to be able to get to the postseason and possibly win a World Series.
Jake, do you really believe that, though? And I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Do you really believe that going against teams like LA or Philadelphia that they'll have to go against in the postseason, that Atlanta, without Strider and Acuna, are still one of the better teams?
I believe anything after 2021. I mean, if you would have told me going into that postseason how confident I felt in that team winning a World Series, I probably wouldn't have said not all that confident. And I think this roster, at least on paper, is better than that 2021 team. And we've seen it. I mean, the last 2 seasons, the teams there were better than that 2021 team, at least on paper. But it all comes down to how you're playing come postseason time. And I feel like Matt Olson, Austin Riley, what Marcell Ozuna is doing, what we know Michael Harris is capable of. Ozzie Albies is an all-star. I mean, there's still just so much talent on here. Max Fried's an ace. Chris Sale's looking like an ace. The bullpen is very deep. So, yes, I very much still believe that this team is good enough to still win a World Series, go up against those teams. And like you said, or like I said, it's all about, how you're playing at that time come October. And if this team is clicking at the right point, they're certainly not now. Hopefully they're getting that out of the way. But I think they're more than capable of still winning a World Series.
Make sure you find and follow Locked On Braves across all your favorite social platforms. Jake, it feels obviously at this point like this team is a tale of the walking wounded, but can you put it into perspective and compare the Braves injury situation with other MLB clubs? I mean, obviously they still have a solid record to this point, despite all of the injuries. I mean, other teams are fighting injuries as well. It's just a part of the game, but how do the Braves stack up against some of the other best teams in the league?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of hard to quantify. Everybody's dealing with injuries, especially, pitcher injuries. I mean, even the Dodgers, they've had a lot of arms. Walker Buehler's coming back from a second Tommy John and hasn't quite looked like himself. Clayton Kershaw, a veteran, he's still trying to fight his way back. They've had a couple of young arms there that have gone down. Dustin May's still somebody that's trying to work his way back. It's particularly on the pitching side of things. It's just how many of your arms can you keep healthy for the postseason? And that's something we still, don't know. It's something that's hurt the Braves the last 2 postseasons. Now, the offense was why they ultimately sputtered and got bounced out last year. But last 2 postseasons, the Braves have gone in with a couple of injured starters. And it's all just kind of timing and making sure that you keep your guys as healthy and as fresh as you can for that postseason run. But injuries in general in baseball are up more than we've ever seen, particularly pitcher injuries. I know we've talked about that on here before, just the fact that pitchers are doing things we've never seen before. And it's why you always have to have arms available and coming up ready to go. See, the Braves are calling up prospect Spencer Schwellenbach to start on Wednesday. You have to have 11, 12, 13 starters in order to get through a regular season. And like I said, just hope some of those guys, your best guys, are healthy and ready to go for the postseason. So the Braves aren't the only one dealing with it, but you're not going to find too many teams that have the NL Cy Young favorite and the NL MVP favorite going into the year, and you lose both of those guys for the rest of the season going into the first 2 months. That's a lot to overcome. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I still think there's enough talent there for them to get the job done.
Now, Jake, I love the fact that you do a Miners Monday segment on your show. Can you tell us a little bit more about Spencer Schwellenbach, Braves number 3 prospect that they're calling up?
Yeah, I love Spencer Schwellenbach. I had him rated as my number 4 prospect coming into the year. I was really impressed. I usually go back every offseason and just do a deep dive on all the Braves prospects. I don't have a lot of time during the season to really watch them. But I had Schwellenbach as my number 3 behind Smith Shawver, Waldrop, and J.R. Ritchie, who's out for the season with Tommy John. But I really love the control from Spencer Schwellenbach. He was a two-way player in college at Nebraska that had a really good arm, and for them, he'd come in and close games out. So it's another one of these guys the Rays kind of, took a flyer on as somebody they thought had the athleticism to make it on the mound as a starter. And he's blossomed and he's taken off. And it's just a really good feel for a fastball that's, sits mid-90s, but he can get it up into the upper 90s. So he has a lot of velocity. He has a good slider as well, a really good pitch for him. A good changeup that I thought was really impressed with on some of my watches, again, when I was watching him last offseason. He's been off to a great start this year. He started the year in high A, which I was a little surprised just because he is older. I mean, he's older than A.J. Smith-Shawver. He's 23, like I said, being a college guy. So they started him out at high A, and there he was just ridiculous. But they moved him up to double A, where he's been even more untouchable. 13 innings at double A, 5 hits, 17 strikeouts, just 1 walk. So really good control. The one question about him coming into this season, he hadn't struck out a ton of batters so far professionally. 65 innings last year, just 55 strikeouts. He's been doing that more this season, but still it's a 207 opponent's batting average against last year. It's just 215 this year. So just a guy with really good stuff, good movement, good command, doesn't give up a lot of hits. So we'll see what he can do. It was a bit surprising that they called him up. I did not see that coming. Thought maybe they would give Hurst and Waldrop a chance first, but maybe just with the way things lined up with where they were in the rotation, going to give Schwellenbach a chance. So excited to see what he can do.
Jake Mastriani, Locked On Braves, joining us on Wire to Wire with Cole and Diesel. Jake, what do you think about the free agency market now? With Strider going out early in the season, a lot of Braves fans were asking, do you go get someone in the free agency market or acquire someone via trade? Now that you lost your best player, do you really consider that?
So free agency is obviously very hard to predict right now, especially for starting pitchers. But I think if Alex Anthopoulos is going to do anything to upgrade, either of those spots, and we don't know what the future looks like for Ronald. We know he's out the rest of this year, but hopefully we'll back some point next year. And again, that could be a long process for him coming back from that, as we saw the first time around when he tore the ACL on the other knee. So if Alex Anthopoulos is going to make a move to upgrade either of those spots, to my mind, it's more likely that he goes the trade route. It's more likely that he uses the depth of young pitching prospects that they have, whether that be a Smith Shawver, a Waldrop, a Schwellenbach, a Ritchie, and Owen Murphy. I mean, they just have a long list of really good pitching prospects that I think they could use to go out and get somebody, who has more of a track record and somebody that they can stick into the rotation long term. So I'd be looking for arms at this deadline and maybe even in the offseason, guys that have years of control, because that's really what you're wanting right now, because you don't know the future of the rotation without Max Fried, without Charlie Morton, and not really knowing the status of Spencer Strider, when he can be back to looking like Spencer Strider. So Alex Anthopoulos, I trust him wholeheartedly. He's obviously done an amazing job here. So I'm sure he is turning over every stone right now, trying to find the answers.
Jake, tell us about the dynamic between Alex Anthopoulos and Brian Snitker. How does Brian Snitker, is he the type of manager that wants to be left alone to figure things out and shake up his own lineup his own way? Is Alex Anthopoulos a little bit of a hands-on guy? Is he a laissez-faire, hands off the wheel kind of thing? Who is pressuring who right now to make moves?
Yeah, I mean, if you believe Alex Anthopoulos, and I do, he generally says he leaves all that to Brian Snitker. He brings the guys in, and then he lets Snitker decide what to do with them. Now, how much I genuinely believe that, I don't know. I think they're certainly, with the way analytics are today, that's got to play into it. But I mean, Snitker generally, as long as everybody's healthy, he puts out a lineup, and that's the lineup for a while. It's not like he is changing things up every day to play matchups, which would tell me that Snitker is the one pretty much controlling the ship, at least as far as the lineup goes. Now, he's going to have to figure some things out here with Ronald, who's a mainstay at the top of your order, and that's going to force him to kind of switch things up a little bit. But from what you hear from Alex Anthopoulos is, he is just his main focus is to bring in the guys who, not only fit with what they can do on the field, but fit in the clubhouse, and then he leaves it up to Snitker and that coaching staff to put things together. And Snitker has a good coaching staff there. I know they lost EY, I know they lost Wash, but still a lot of really good managers there. Walt Weiss, who's been a manager himself, still helping snicker in that regard. So I believe he mainly leaves it up to that coaching staff to put things together.
Jake, how much concern do you have when you discuss A.J. Smith-Shawver and his injury history?
I mean, not too much for him. I mean, he's still a young kid. He doesn't have a lot of mileage on the arm, and it's not like it was a shoulder or an elbow or anything. It was an oblique that he had. So I don't know what's going on with the obliques this year for the Braves. Maybe that's something that needs to have a deeper dive into, but I'm not overly concerned about it. I mean, he is somebody, like I said, doesn't have a lot of workload under his belt anyway. So there was probably a spot this season where the Braves were maybe going to dial back his innings some. So this kind of helps in that. Of course, at some point you want to see him be able to get that innings limit up and be able to go beyond, 100 innings and more, which he hasn't been able to do yet. So, but I'm not overly worried about A.J. Smith-Shawver. You hate it, the timing of it, because it looked like he was going to get another opportunity, and I was very impressed with what I saw from him. So certainly hate it for his sake, but I think he'll be okay long term.
Jake, I give you a lot of credit for, to this point at least, not piling on, Angel Hernandez and his retirement. It seems like taking shots at Angel is like grabbing the town doorknob. Everybody gets a turn. So credit to you for not going there yet. But I do want to ask you your opinion thus far of Chris Sale. He's a guy who was seen as a guy who had a lot of potential if he could stay healthy. And boy, has he. He's only gone 8-1, 2.1 ERA, 78 strikeouts. I mean, it's still early in the season, obviously, but has what we've seen from Chris Sale so far really surprised you?
It surprised me in the sense that he's a Cy Young candidate. I didn't think he would be that. Now, the underlying metrics that I saw when the Braves made the move from him, the underlying metrics I saw from what he did with the Red Sox last year told me he still has really good stuff and he has the ability to be a really good pitcher. The only real question mark that I had coming into the season was, could he stay healthy? And to this point, and again, it's very early, he has proven that. But, if you had asked me beginning of the year, do I think he's going to be, a Cy Young contender, 2 months through the season, I probably would have said no, but I think he's still going to be a very good, mid threes, maybe high threes ERA type of pitcher. And he has certainly been even better than that. So I'm not surprised by the fact that he's still a good pitcher, but the fact that he's been, a Cy Young contender is a bit surprising. And again, where would this Braves team, this rotation be without, the move or the trade for Chris Sale and the signing of Ronaldo Lopez, two guys that have been huge. The Braves have needed starting pitching to step up with the way the offense has been going here for the past month. And those two guys in particular have done a great job.
Jake, one thing that I really find interesting is that, for the past 6 to 8 years, after the rebuild, we've seen what is the prime Atlanta Braves right now. And we know that in 2021, AA made a lot of moves midseason to bring guys in and ultimately help them win the World Series. But the last few years, even with the talent that Atlanta has had on their roster, what can you put a finger on in terms of the exact reason that you think Philadelphia looks to be the thorn in the Braves' side? And I guess the second part of that question is, could you see them being that thorn again this year?
Certainly could. The Phillies are a great team. I said that coming in. I feel like a lot of people were pointing to the Braves and the Dodgers, and rightfully so, but a lot of people were leaving the Phillies out, and I don't really understand that because they're a very good team, and they got Trey Turner. I mean, who I know is injured right now, but Bryce Harper, it's a really good team. And Zach Wheeler looks like the best pitcher in baseball. I mean, there's a lot of talent there. So the Phillies definitely could continue to be that thorn in the side of the Braves. Now, why the Braves haven't gotten it done the last 2 years, I mean, that's as good a guess as anybody's, because on paper, those are the two most talented teams I've seen in quite some time. And last year's team in particular was, I think, by far the best team in baseball, over 162. I don't think you'll find too many people who would dispute that. But just for whatever reason, come postseason time, it just wasn't there. Now, what's the same about the last 2 years? It's a new postseason format, and I hate to just make excuses. I'm sure fans don't want to hear excuses, but nobody really who's gotten that bye has done well in the new postseason format, sans the Houston Astros. So I don't know if that's part of it, trying to figure out a way how to get the offense hot through all those off days. But the Phillies just are, they're a team. They kind of have that it factor. There's a lot of good guys over there that play with an edge, are very fired up. You get them in that postseason environment, they seem to play up to that. Their fans do as well, a great home environment. So they just seem to have that edge to them that the Braves have been missing the past couple of years. It's something that also, talking to Chris Sale, something they thought he could bring to this team, a little bit more fire for them. But again, I know baseball fans hate to hear this, but it just really comes down to how you're playing come October. In the last 2 Octobers, the Braves just, for whatever reason, haven't played their best ball playing against the Phillies.
Jake, I'm going to ask you to use your imagination a little bit on this, my final question here, because I know one of these stadiums, you probably are not old enough to have ever experienced a game in it. So, but I know as a longtime Braves fan, I'm sure you've seen some photos and you've heard some stories. So I want you to power rank in their prime, Fulton County Stadium, Turner Field, and Truist Park. One of the great things about baseball is that it's so rooted in tradition that sometimes the older parks with less amenities just feel better to us, right? And just because Truist Park is newest and it's got all the shiny things doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. So do me a favor and power rank Fulton County Stadium, Turner Field, and Truist Park.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. I've been to all three. Obviously, Fulton, I was pretty young, so I don't have as many memories there, but, obviously a lot of postseason runs there, fans hanging signs over the balconies there, or not the balconies, but the concourses there is a big memory for me as a kid. But Turner Field's always kind of been where my heart is, because that's, kind of where I grew up, going to Braves games a lot more often, especially in my high school, college years. And I just loved Turner Field. I loved the atmosphere there. It was great. And I said, Truist will never match that, but I'm starting to come around. It's a good ballpark, but what Truist has done that Turner Field just couldn't match is just the environment around it. And it's a whole different scene now at Truist, because it's not just the game. You walk outside the stadium after the game and it's like the party continues. And, it's just a whole different vibe. It's a whole new experience going to a game at Truist. If you're talking about just inside the stadium itself during the game, I probably would prefer Turner Field. But if you're just talking about all encompassing, experience, Truist Park's been really great. And obviously by attendance and everybody there, everybody seems to love it and enjoy it. So I don't know if that's a cop-out answer or not, but that's kind of my feelings on it.
Jay, great stuff, man. We appreciate you hopping on with us, and hopefully the Braves can turn this thing around come summertime or early August.
Yeah, they usually do.
Great stuff, Jake. That is Jake Mastriani of Locked On Braves. And as you said earlier, Diesel, you can follow him on Twitter. We encourage our Tolos to do that. Shortstop Ball. That's at Shortstop Ball on Twitter. Give Jake a follow there and let him know you heard about him and heard his interview on Wire to Wire.
Yeah, his show is absolutely fantastic. I listen to it, 2 or 3 times a week, constantly putting out daily content about the Atlanta Braves. A big time follow. If you love the Braves, he is one of the best accounts that I've found to follow and talk Braves. Not only does he analyze what he's seeing on the field, he brings in guests. He has on questions and answer segments from the audience. Definitely worth the follow.
I'm trying my absolute best to stay positive and as a Braves fan, Diesel, but also as a radio show host, I'm trying my best. However, and I'm not trying to hit the panic button. I'm just saying this, June in 3 days from now, 4 days from now, we're almost to June. And I know there's a lot of baseball left, and I know that they could turn it around. However, my opinion on May 28th is I'm not feeling so optimistic, and it looks to me like, Diesel, it might just be one of those years of bad breaks.
Yeah, it's great to get Austin Riley and Sean Murphy back the way that they have. It sucks to lose Acuna, to have lost Strider a couple of weeks back. I mean, it feels like we're just one more injury in the starting rotation away from this team really struggling down the stretch. I mean, Chris Sale, can he go an entire season without getting hurt? That is a massive question. And, can they now afford, obviously with Strider out, can they afford to give him the rest that he probably needs to be able to stay pitching at an elite level throughout the rest of the season?
And listen, Diesel, players get hurt. I understand that. However, your 2 best players can't go down with season-ending injuries. If you told me Spencer Strider was coming back in June or July, it'd be a different opinion. But you're talking about your best pitcher and your best hitter, best player, both done.
And in the meantime, everybody else on your team has suddenly forgot how to hit.
Yes, which is true.
It's a dark place right now to be a Braves fan, but hopefully not this coming Monday, but the following Monday. So 2 weeks from yesterday, when we have Jake back on, because we bring him on every other Monday, we'll have something much more positive to talk about with the Atlanta Braves.
You know what? I just put 2 and 2 together. The Braves started slipping when we had Jake on.
Oh, you're not going to put that on. You're not going to put that evil on him, are you, Ricky Bobby? Come on.
Sorry, Jake. All right, Boston has punched their ticket. Dallas is 1 win away. What could be in store for potentially, in my opinion, one of the best NBA finals we've seen in a long time? Next. Diesel, one of the biggest reasons over the last 2 decades that I have loved and cherished the NBA Finals, and especially the NBA playoffs, is because, as you know, and many people know, I am a huge LeBron fan, right? Well, over the past 2 to 3 years, LeBron and his team hasn't been in the finals. So it's been hard for me. It's been depressing because LeBron's the reason I love the NBA, if I'm being completely honest. He is the reason I love the NBA. So seeing him get close to retirement has made it difficult for me to become as emotionally invested in the finals. However, Dallas-Boston, and I know Dallas still has to win tonight to get to the finals. Dallas-Boston with Jason Tatum for Boston and Kyrie and Luka. I do think, Diesel, that for people who are just casual basketball fans, I think this potential matchup could be one of the better finals we've seen. You know, Denver with Nikola Jokic, it didn't really move the meter for people. Like, people just don't get interested in Denver. But Boston, Dallas, 2 big markets. I think that could do it for you. You ask me all the time, what can get you, to watch? I think this kind of Boston-Dallas series could do it.
Cole, I'm going to be real with you and tell you an uncomfortable fact here. Unless you try really hard to stay into the NBA once your heroes of the game, the players that you grew up watching,
I know
that once they start retiring, it's going to be harder and harder for you to stay in it.
You're making me sad, man.
It's true, man. I had a college professor once tell me, we were talking about music at the time and bands and artists. And he said, the music that you listen to in high school and college will be the core of what you listen to for the rest of your life.
Sure.
Like, you can add artists here and there, new stuff that you find here and there. But for most people, what you listen to in high school and college is what you will listen to for the rest of your life. And the same is true for your favorite athletes. And once those athletes start retiring, once those favorite bands and artists that you love start retiring, it's going to get harder and harder for you to stay with it.
I hear you. And I know you're right. I know you're right, but I don't want to admit it, okay?
I mean, when Luka retires, when Giannis retires, it's tough.
See, LeBron was the guy that I grew up idolizing from an on-the-court standpoint.
It's also harder for you to identify with guys that at that point will be, 10, 15, 20 years younger than you.
It's true. I hope that doesn't happen, but you know what? The last few years, like the last 2 finals, without LeBron, man, I have not been as intrigued. However,
you'll say I don't recognize these names. No. I don't recognize these faces. Who are these guys? Yeah, they're talented, but I don't know them.
I'm hoping. I'm really, really hoping. And you can text the show if you have thoughts. I know Ricky was talking about the Mavs in the stream earlier, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. I'm really hoping, Diesel, though, that the star power between between Dallas and Boston, with stars like Kyrie Irving, who was and still is an incredible basketball player, right? With Luka Doncic, who's probably the best on the earth right now, and Jason Tatum, that is a lot of star power.
Don't you mean to say best on the flat earth? Because we established on Thursday that you're a flat earther, and we know that Kyrie is a flat earther.
Do you know that everybody in the audience just now thought to themselves, are you kidding me? Cole believes that the earth's flat? And I don't even remember, honestly, that was Thursday, but I don't even remember what were we talking about? I don't even remember, but someone, a texter, said, I bet Cole's a flat earther, which I'm not, but
how did that come up?
I don't even know. We weren't even talking about the earth, were we?
No, we weren't. We were talking about conspiracies, and then you became a flat earther, and then
the cities list.
The
cities list. Yeah, that was it. But anyways, Diesel, Boston showed that in the Eastern Conference Finals that they were 10 times better than the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers were no match, even with Tyrese Halliburton, who's a really good player. They were no match. Boston, Dallas should be a series that goes 6 or 7. But I asked the question to you, someone who does like basketball but doesn't love the NBA like I do, what would intrigue you about a potential Boston-Dallas series?
Well, it certainly helps to have these 2 big cities going at each other, and that's what it's going to take probably for me to watch these finals and to find meaning in watching these games. I'm going to be fascinated to see, Cole, if Dallas's home court advantage can stack up to Boston's, the legendary Boston Garden home court advantage.
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah. I just hope that we get a competitive series because, again, having one of these conference finals be a sweep with Boston and Indiana, and the other one on the verge of a sweep tonight. I hope that means we do have by far the two best teams left.
Which I think we do. I really do. I think these are the two best teams. I don't think we've been cheated in any way. I think the TD Garden, to your point, is a tough place to play. I do know from experience being there in the playoffs, watching games, Dallas is a tough one, but the TD Garden's a different animal. Those are two good home courts, and Boston having the first two at their place is a big advantage, Diesel. Like a team having to go into Boston for the first two games, that's tough. It really is, but it's going to be really fascinating if we get the series. However, history does tell us that teams that are up 3-0 do go on to win the series. I don't see Minnesota. Maybe Minnesota wins a game, but this one's pretty much over. Let's go to the phone lines, 844-FAN-PHONE. It's the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. Big Kev wants to weigh in on the NBA Finals. What's up, Kevin?
What's up, fellas?
How are you, man?
Hey, Kev.
Hey, man, just hanging out, man, trying to figure this finals thing out because I'm guessing Dallas gonna go ahead and knock them out here in the next game or so. But this could be some 130 type games, man, because Dallas, I don't see them playing real big time defense. Then you got to stop Tatum and Brown. If Tatum and Brown don't stop themselves, nobody's gonna stop them.
Kevin, I'll tell you this.
Kyrie gonna go for it. He's going for it.
I'll tell you, I agree with you. There should be a lot of offensive explosion. However, and I know you love the NBA, so if you disagree with me, tell me. Boston's probably top to bottom a little bit more talented, a little bit more deeper when you look at their bench. However, is there anybody in the game right now that you've seen that can close and control a final 2 minutes of a game like Luka can?
No. Hopefully you blowing them out by that time because you don't want Luka to just slow roll you down the floor with time running down, and he just because it ain't like he got a whole bunch of moves with his dribbling. Mm-hmm. He just send you one way, and you out there on skates, and hopefully he get the switch, and the center is on him, so he can shake him out his jockstrap. So that's gonna be easy. If he gets that, then it's easy for him. But I just feel if Boston get, and I hate to say that being a Lakers fan, but if Boston get up and down the floor, man, and if Porzingis get to come back, this thing could get bad. And Dallas, and by the time Dallas think about it, they could be down 2-0 real quick.
So Kev, forgive me if I'm way off base here, but most people don't get a buttery smooth voice like yours without having a couple of rings on the tree. You know what I'm saying? So I know that you've been around, or I'm betting that you've been around long enough to see, an era of defensive basketball and this era of offensive basketball. You said it yourself. I'm expecting to see scores up in the 130s. Do you think the game has lost something, or is it more difficult for you as a fan to watch basketball where they're consistently scoring up there in the 120s, 130s, 140s, and saying, man, nobody's playing basketball in this league, and nobody's playing defense in this league anymore?
It's more from the fan side of it, depending on your age, because everybody that's really seen LeBron's career plus, like you're going to look at it like, okay, LeBron's up and down the floor, giving out assists, getting rebound, doing what he do. But nobody in this era has that dog in him when it's time to just get down and I'm going like talking junk to me. It ain't that I'm going out to be selfish tonight, but I'm going to show you can't do nothing with me. And I'm going to go score 66 tonight on you.
See, I think Luka has that.
Head on your head. Who?
I think Luka has that dog in him. I've seen him talk trash. Oh, yeah. I think he's got
Luka's got it. Luka and now that him and Kyrie play together like that, and they really see each other's game and what they can do, I love it. And don't some of these playoff games have been a little somewhat. Oh, you can't put it on loud because it's just the energy that old school played with when it was time to get down and certain things like something like giving you that before the game, and it's a big game. No, I don't have nothing to say to you. I don't like your mama, your grandma. I don't like nobody in your family or your team right now.
Too friendly.
Right.
So you wouldn't be
I got
trading
to-
jerseys after the game either, would you?
You can't. If I got to take my jersey off, that means we finna throw some blows. Like, we finna go at it. Why am I take my jersey off and give it to you? If I see you in the street after the season or something, hey man, hey, here you go. But after the game and all this, no, I'm trying to get to this locker room and either celebrate this win or go in here mad and get back to the book so we can see why we lost.
Hey,
I
Kev,
ain't got time to give you my jersey.
real quick, thanks for the call. But how about that new promo? Have you heard that surfacing lately?
Hey man, listen to me. If I can get a couple hot dogs off that thing, man, we can do this every other week, man.
A little NIL, maybe?
Or something to post some Heinz 57 sauce all over.
Thanks for the call, brother.
All right.
That is the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. It is fascinating, though, with Kyrie and Luka looking at what could be a potential matchup with Boston. Diesel, I do think there's something to be said about, like there's an old saying, and I don't know if you agree with it or not, but there's an old saying that people say you have to lose before you can win, right? And I know that in different sports it has different meanings, but what does scare me about Boston is, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree with that theory, what scares me about Boston is they're due, right? Like they have lost. They've been through NBA Finals where they have not won the championship, 2021 against Golden State. It seems like they're due, and if I were a Dallas Mavericks fan, that would scare the crap out of me. It really would.
Cole, I have a big question here for you.
Okay.
Should the NBA move their season back a couple of months? So the season is October to April, right?
It is,
There's
yeah.
a little crossover. Not a ton of crossover with Major League Baseball, but there's a lot of crossover with the NFL and college football.
Sure.
But the season ends in April. Then we got a long time. We talk about what are we going to do? What are we going to talk about for those doldrums of the summer months where there's not a lot of major action happening, at least not hot action in leading up to races for the finals or the playoffs in Major League Baseball yet. So wouldn't it behoove the NBA to move their finals back to July? And then that would be starting the season in December?
I've always said I think that the NBA should start on Christmas Day.
Okay.
I think the opening day.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean you could market it. And the NBA to me starting in October near Halloween is 2 months of pointless basketball. Okay, that's my opinion. I know that we have the same topic of conversation with the MLB when it comes to is the season too long? I do think that the NBA you'd have an overall better product if it were shorter. You wouldn't have to worry about players Diesel wanting to take time off. And if you started it in December, yeah, you would have a later finals, and I'd be for it. I would.
Yeah, then we'd have meaningful major sports in this country in the summer months. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, the summertime is for regular season baseball. Summertime is for going out and doing things. Well, that's not how we operate anymore, right? This ain't the 1950s, okay? People are sitting home, sitting in the air conditioning, doing the things that they've always done, sitting at home, watching TV. So I think it would behoove them. Now they'd never do it, right? They would never do it because that would be sort of admitting defeat.
Yeah.
That their season is not at the right time of the year or conceding to the NFL or whatever you want to call it. But man, could you imagine the season ending in late July and then we're like 3 weeks away from college football starting?
It'd be interesting.
It would be great.
Texter says, hopefully in the finals, we get the best 2 words in sports. Game 7. Especially since we won't even make it to Game 5, LOL, says the texter. I will say, texter, if it goes, if you have Boston, Dallas, which I think you will, I don't see Minnesota coming back from down 3-0. It's never happened. I do think that Boston, Dallas goes 7. I really do. There's too much talent on both rosters for it not to go 7. So I think it could be a lot of fun.
Cole, when we come back, you're mad. I'm mad about something.
Man, I'm so upset about this. Listen, man, I try to be as positive as can be on this show, but I saw something yesterday, and I was doing some thinking, and that's not good. Anytime I start thinking, it's not good. Okay, I'll just tell you like that. It's not good when Cole's brain starts to rack. It's usually a bad thing. But there's something about holidays, Diesel, that just burns my grits. And we had a holiday yesterday. I'll share it with you next. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is The Fan Upstate. You know, Diesel, I really do, for the most part, try to be an optimistic person. Like, I want to feel as if, like, this country and our society and everybody can one day just get along, right?
Yeah, I'm not with you on that. I don't think it's possible.
Well, you know, I'm trying to live in a fantasy world. However,
Yeah.
it's not. It's not. But I'll tell you what upsets me.
You can hit somebody with your shopping cart and then
You're in jail.
you're in jail. Or they'll hit you with their shopping cart and then won't apologize and be like, screw you, you're in my way.
Like, this thing that happened last night is something that I asked the question, do we as Americans, have we forgotten like how to see the bigger picture in life? And, you know, I think it's important, Diesel, to remind ourselves that a lot of times you and I both, and everybody out there listening at some point gets frustrated about things in life. And you know what? When we look back, you sometimes realize, man, you know what? We got upset about something really small, right? And it wasn't worth getting upset about. So last night, Memorial Day, I come home and it's like 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the evening. I live in an apartment complex, right? We have a very nice apartment pool. Like the apartments I live in, they're nice apartments, and the pools are very strict. Like there's a very strict set of rules. So I go inside, I take a shower, and I have to go to the store to my local Ingles to get a few things, right? I come outside probably 45 minutes later. I look to the left. Everyone in the apartment, I mean, I live in a big complex. Everybody and their mother is outside. There are probably 8 cop cars at the end of at the street where the pool is, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody's just phones like, what is happening? So I, of course, like everybody else, walk toward the action.
Get your phone out, start recording.
Yeah, to see what's going on. There was at the pool, there was apparently not a fight, but a brawl that broke out between man. It started with a man and a woman, and the man was trying to his girlfriend allegedly. They were upset about something. He was confronting the woman. Another group of people jumped in to break up. You know, nobody wants to see somebody hit a woman. So it turned into this big brawl. Mm-hmm. And what frustrates me, what burns my grits is, like, I ask you the question, I ask our audience, our Tolos, 71307, start your text with the word fan. Have we as Americans in a society lost the fact that, like, we can't even go and have a Memorial Day cookout without it ending by being thrown in the clink? Like, that to me, like last night, I know it's a small event. Thank God there wasn't a shooting or anything like that. But it does upset me. It does just get me a little bit down that we can't even celebrate a Memorial Day where we're supposed to be thankful for people who lost their lives for the country, right? This great country we live in, that we have to have things that happen. And I'm sure that yesterday there were a million other things that happened. But why can't we just get along?
Yeah, Cole, we have completely lost it. I don't know how to get it back. I don't know how to get it back. The concept of etiquette, right? The concept of having personal pride in your appearance. I mean, you've seen it as well as many times as I have, Cole. You go out to you have to make a late night run to a Walmart. You walk in, and man, it looks like a bomb just went off.
Sure.
And people just woke up out of bed, rolled out of bed with their dirty pajama pants and their
flip-flops,
filthy flip-flops and Crocs, or if they're even wearing shoes at all.
True.
Butt crack hanging out. It's like we've lost our ability to have any pride in our own personal appearance. I mean, look, I'm not saying that it probably didn't suck, but you've seen photos of baseball games from like the 1930s and 40s. What's everybody wearing? They're wearing a suit.
Mm-hmm.
And nice clothes to go out, and you know, you're going to be in public. You got to look presentable. I'm not saying it didn't suck to be at a baseball game in July in Atlanta, Georgia, in a suit and a top hat. I'm sure that sucked. But you know what? You looked good. You probably didn't smell good, but you look good. I mean, you know, we've lost our concept of decorum. We've lost our concept of honor and of treating people the right way and deferring when you know you've done something wrong, if you made a mistake, if you're standing in somebody's way. Whatever, we've lost that ability, and most people, not only we've gone past losing it, we've gone past celebrating not having it.
You know what makes me more upset though? Like, I agree with you 100%, and not to turn this topic or this conversation political, but you know what it boils down to? Like, you and I are both on the same side of we want this country to be the best country with everybody treating people the way they should be treated. However, and again, I'm not trying to get political because that station's across the hall, but when we as a country are okay to say that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are our only two choices for presidency to lead this country and bring people together, like, why do we not elect leaders that care? Like, again, it goes back to politics. People aren't into politics, Diesel, to make the country better. People are in politics for selfish reasons.
Right.
But we don't put the right people. We don't put good people in office.
They're not in it to unite us. They're in it to divide us.
That's right.
And say, just as long as my faction is 51% and your faction is 49%, that's all I care about.
And you know what's sad?
The sad part is, Cole, is that it takes national tragedies to bring us together.
It does, and that is sad. But you know what else is worse? That like if somebody who really does have a good heart and wants the best for the country, if they run for a political office, they don't have a shot.
They don't stand a chance.
They don't stand a chance because they're not divide. As you said, they don't intend to divide, and that's where I think this country's going wrong, man. Like, let's just get back to the simplicity of treating people the right way. Is that too much to ask?
No, it's not. And let's also remember that Memorial Day is not a day for you to go out and party on a boat and do crazy stuff and crash boats into other people. It's a day of remembrance, you know? So we've forgotten. 4th of July is a celebration day.
Sure.
Memorial Day is not a celebration day. You get the day off, but that doesn't mean that you should spend it getting hammered out on a lake or whatever it is people do on Memorial Day. Cole, when we come back, it is time for us to what? Be divisive and fight it out. The 5 o'clock fight comes up next here on the Fan Upstate. Cole, how about that promo that we just heard?
I love it.
Righter Than You promo.
They're,
Talking about Dabo Sweeney taking shots.
Who's not taking shots at
That's
Dabo
true.
right now?
That's true. Well, I mean, I got a problem with the Clemson fan base, those who are just regurgitating everything Dabo says. Oh, we got a whole roster full of transfers. They all transferred here from high school. Look, think for yourselves, would you? Stop regurgitating everything that Dabo Sweeney and the program has to say. Bill Ryder was right there.
Right.
When he said, Dabo, do like everybody else has to do. Suck it up and do the job. You don't have to agree with it. Just suck it up and do the job.
You know what?
It's part of the job right now.
A lot of fans, for whatever reason, Diesel, just can't understand. Like, you and I are both in the content business. People, for whatever reason, take it personally as an attack on them and their fandom, right? When somebody talks about Dabo and his refusal to adapt to college football, they take it personal.
Well, the truth is most people, Cole, they don't really have an identity of their own. You know, they think of things. How many people have you seen on Twitter whose Twitter bio is just a list of teams that they follow?
A lot.
I mean, hey, we love you because you're sports fans, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, you got to have more to your personality than just the 4 or 5 teams that you're a fan of. That's where I know, like, I basically choose not to reply to those people because, like, this is all you got. Like, clearly your job is not very fulfilling. You probably don't have a girlfriend. You know, you don't have a house that you're working on and maintaining. You need more hobbies if all you've got in your life is sports.
Speaking of not fulfilling, on Friday, Diesel, you were under the weather, so I was hosting solo.
Mm-hmm.
It was not fulfilling when 5 o'clock came around and I didn't have anybody to fight with.
Yeah.
I had no one. There was no 5 o'clock fight. I couldn't fight with the wall over there.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a breath of fresh air, man. It feels like a while since we've argued.
So, Cole, I know that, and we will get to the 5 o'clock fight here in just a second. Of the 19 teams that finished ranked higher than Clemson in the 2023 year-ending AP poll, how many would you say probably use the transfer portal to some effect? All of them? Besides maybe Michigan? And even Michigan has transfers.
You would think all of them.
All of them.
Yeah.
All of them. Every single team that's finishing better than Clemson is using the transfer portal. Yet, you Tiger fans, you Dabo lovers, you supporters who will do anything and everything Dabo tells you to do without question. I'm just saying, what's it like looking up at Washington, looking up at Florida State, looking up at Oregon, looking up at Missouri, looking up at Ole Miss, Arizona, Penn State, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. For crying out loud, Kansas State finished higher than you last year. And y'all are like, nah, don't need the portal. We're good without it. I just don't understand it. Cole, here we go. Every day at 5 o'clock, you and I pick 3 topics, and we argue it out. We have to take opposite sides. Here we go.
It's an all-out slugfest, and nobody's leaving unscathed. 3 topics, 1 winner. It's the 5 o'clock fight on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Cole, again, so here are the rules, and Madcraft, I will get to you. Don't worry. Don't worry, friend. I'm coming back around. At 5 o'clock, we pick 3 topics. We fight it out. We take opposite sides of the argument. Those are the rules. You, the Tolos, get to decide who wins each round of the fight by texting in at 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. You get to message in on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube on the stream. Here we go with round number 1. What is the superior summertime holiday cookout item? The cheeseburger or the hot dog?
Gosh, this is a good one. This is a good one. I love a cheeseburger. However, if I have to say a superior summertime / holiday cookout item, Diesel, I'm going hot dog. I'm going slaw, chili, ketchup, mustard, load it up. For whatever reason, cheeseburgers are great. for whatever reason, when you're outside, like let's say you've been in the pool, a hot dog just hits different, man. So give me a hot dog all day long, summertime cookout. I'll load up about 3 or 4 hot dogs.
A cheeseburger is more flavorful. It's more versatile. You can do a lot more with it. And it just plain tastes better. Like, at least you know what's in your cheeseburger,
Come
Cole.
on.
You have no idea what's in your hot dogs. You have pig lips, I'm sure. So,
Well, it could be, but they're good pig lips. I like good pig lips.
Tolos, message in 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Who wins round 1? Let's move on.
Round 2. Fight.
If you're on a plane,
Yeah.
and the person in front of you leans their seat back, does that bug you?
Yes, it bugs me. It bugs the crap out of me. Like, I get that everybody's seat reclines, but to me, it's like a common courtesy thing. If you get to relax and sleep and lean back, that means I don't, okay? Unless I lean mine back, then the person behind me don't. They do not get to recline. I do like on a plane when the person in front of me says, you know what, I'm going to be generous today. I'm not going to lean back because these 2 inches of me leaning back aren't going to make or break my nap because you already drank 3 bottles of wine to the lady in front of you. So, Diesel, no, it's not a thing for me. I like staying up where you're staying upright in your seating position.
See, it doesn't bug me at all. When a seat leans back, that is what the seat is designed to do, right? That is that person's space. They bought the seat and everything that the seat can do. They paid for it. I mean, I could lean my seat back too. If I'm weirded out that now there's a seat 2 inches closer to my face, I could just push that little button on my armrest and do the exact same thing. Just lean on back, get comfy. It's not like they're sitting in your lap, right?
Are they though?
I mean, far worse than somebody leaning their chair back, Cole, is the taking off of the shoes on the plane. It's sometimes ladies will like flip their hair over the back of the seat, so now it's in my face.
Oh.
That's way worse, right? That's so much worse.
Yeah,
but
that
as
is
far
worse.
as the chair leaning back, no, that doesn't bug me because you know what? I'll just do the exact same thing and annoy the person behind me as well.
Diesel, the last time that I flew toward the end of last year, it was Spirit. And, on Spirit, you don't even get the choice. There is no leaning of a seat back, right?
I think their logo or their slogan is Spirit. We'll get you there.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to run to the front of the plane, to balance out the weight. It's just part of the experience.
Man, one time I was flying, we were changing planes in Dallas, and right next to our terminal was a Spirit flight going from Dallas to Miami.
Yeah. And
there is no way in hell I was getting on that plane. That Spirit flight to Miami. I mean, everybody there seemed hammered.
It's like Walmart.
Everybody was there. Exactly. Everybody was there to party. Man, it was not.
I used to call Spirit Diesel the Denny's of the air. That's what I used to call Spirit, the Denny's of the air. I think it's pretty accurate.
Cole, that's one of those things you're going to learn once you get up to your mid-30s. You're going to say, you know what? It's so much more worth it to spend just like $30 more and fly a better airline. You're going to enjoy it so much more. All right, if you're on the fence, if you say Cole has won one round, I've won another, then let's fight it out one last time and break the tie.
Final round. Fight.
After you take a shower, Cole, or take a bath, I don't know what you do.
Yeah.
I'm sure you turn the lights off, listen to Kenny G, take a bath. Do you reuse the towel the next day, or do you always get a new towel?
No! You don't reuse a towel? Are you kidding me? Why is this a trend?
A trend?
Yes, we were talking about this yesterday.
A trend?
People, it's trendy to use the same towels, and I'm not for it, Diesel. Listen, I do not want the towel the next day to have a weird smell to it, okay? Throw it in the dirty clothes, buy some more freaking towels, wash the ones you have. I'm not for using the same towel twice.
So you're doing a load of towels every single week, 7+ towels a week? Because I'm assuming, Cole, sometimes occasionally you do shower more than once in a day. If you go somewhere and you get sweaty and nasty and hot, you got to take a second shower. So for you, a towel is one-time use only?
Yeah, and I washed my towels at least once a week. I think I might have 6 or 7 total. So I'm at least a week. Once a week, I'm washing towels.
A lot of people use their underwear as when it's time to do laundry. You use towels. When you run out of your seventh towel, you say, oh, I better hurry up and do some laundry.
I can't stand like you were dirty and you cleaned yourself off.
And so it's just water. It's just clean water.
I don't know that I can roll with that, man.
I use the same towel usually at least 3 days.
Really?
And then it's time to replace and get a new one.
Honestly, does that towel on day 3 have a stench?
No.
Really?
No, because when I shower, I do a good job. I do a good job. And then I stretch it out across the towel rack so that it can evenly dry. And then it's fine. What do you do? Like, why do your towels stink so bad?
Texter says Cole's wife clearly does the laundry. Well, Texter, joke's on you because I'm single. And I'm a single man who likes the towels clean.
There you go. That is our third round of the 5 o'clock fight. You tell us who won each round by texting in 71307. Start your text with keyword fan.
What do you want Diesel and Bryson to fight about next?
If you've got an ass, I'll kick it.
Submit your topics to Diesel at thefanupstate.com. Subject line, fight on the Fan Upstate.
So we got a lot of messages coming in here.
You want the stream?
Yeah, I'm going with the stream
I'll go
first.
Text.
Mad Craft says cheeseburger wins round 1. The question is, what's the superior summertime holiday cookout item, cheeseburgers or hot dogs? So Mad's with me on that one. Spur Daddy says, Cole, you win round 2. He agrees with you that it is annoying when somebody sitting in a chair in front of you on a plane leans their seat back. I mean, how far be it for them to use the full gamut of what their chair is able to do.
Shame on them.
Come on. What a jerk.
What a lousy person.
Let's see here. Says Spur Daddy says you win round 3. He uses a towel just once.
Yes.
So Spur Daddy's got you winning with a clean sweep.
Thank you, Spur.
Shane Barrett says Cole and Rob Brown with that 1%er income with that many towels.
Yeah, right.
Diesel wins round 3.
Wait a minute. Shane, when the towels cost a lot of money?
Madcraft has got me with the clean sweep today. Good towels cost a lot of money.
I honestly
Are you going to Walmart at midnight getting your bath towels?
No, I honestly right now you get them in a pack, right? Don't they come in a pack or no? Do you not get towels in
when you get good towels, they come individually.
So how much is one towel? Like I'm going to take a wild guess. One towel right now, $4. Is that right? Help me out.
No.
I would not say that the towels are an expensive item by any. 4 may be too low. Don't tell me 10 though. Don't tell me.
Walmart has a 4-pack for $50.
What?
Yep.
$50?
$50.
So I'm way off. I'm living in the 70s.
Pottery Barn has a pack of 5 for $40.
Geez, so
they're kind of all over the place.
So it's more like $8 to $10 a towel on the cheaper end.
Yeah,
I was way off.
You got to buy the big fluffy towels, in which case, use them a couple times.
Wow. So they are more expensive than I thought. I think you know what though, it's worth it.
What are the texters saying?
All right, the texters are asking. Let's see what. I don't know who sent this, but one texter who I'm very fond of all of a sudden said, Bryson 2024. Thank you, texter. We're going back. I believe that was from last segment. Texter says, hot dogs are only acceptable at a ball game? Is this the worst text?
That's not true.
Texter, where's this come from?
I will say, Cole, that a bad hot dog, meaning like a burnt, overcooked hot dog, is better than a burnt, overcooked cheeseburger.
Ooh. That is a good question.
Because, hot dogs are supposed to be burnt. If you're not eating your hot dogs charred, you've got to have a little black on your hot dog, right?
Yep.
Because I can't get down. That's why I don't like boiled hot dogs. They don't taste right. You got to have a little char.
I do like the char
on them. So
a little crunch, right?
Yeah. You got to have some of that. And but if you cook a burger that much, you cook out all the flavor. So the weird thing is like overcooking a hot dog adds to the flavor. But overcooking a hamburger takes the flavor away.
It's weird, but true. That texture was from the 480 saying they're only acceptable at a ball game. Texture, I don't know if I can rattle with you on that. Texture from the 344 Diesel says, put lipstick on pig lips. Cole round 1. Hot dog requires less condiments. Lipstick on pig lips. Texture from the 344 says, as a father and doer of everything, If I recline, I'm done. I don't get to sit down until I sleep at night. Cole round 2. Texter says, where's the beef? I'm not sure what he's referring to. The hot dog, maybe? What do
You
you
can
mean
get
beef?
all beef hot dogs.
Oh, yeah, you can. Yeah.
I only get all beef hot dogs.
I do too. I prefer that. Hurricane Jeff chimes in. Diesel says, round 1, Diesel, hamburgers all the way. Round 2, Diesel.
Yeah.
I'm a big guy and I need to leave my seat back. Round 3, Diesel. Come on, Hurricane Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. That's why you spend the extra money, Jeff, and you get the bulkhead or you get the exit row. Because I mean, let's be real, the plane's not going down, and if it does, you're probably not going to be able to do a whole lot to help.
Diesel Jeff says, I'm still using a towel from a week ago.
Okay, that's gross.
Oh gosh,
that's really gross.
A week? That is a long time.
You got to feel the fibers, man. When the fibers start losing the fluffiness, it's time to change your towel.
A week.
Joey Are you
chimes in.
it every time you use it?
He better be. I would be.
That's so gross.
Joey says, only caught the 3rd round. Diesel wins that one. I grew up poor, and that was a requirement. 3 days didn't change it out.
Shane Barrett says on the chat says, I think the difference is Cole is single with no kids. I'm married with 3 kids. We don't have that many towels.
Okay, that's a fair point, right? If there's 4 or 5 people, no, I get that.
I also don't like putting a towel in the laundry right after using it, because then you got a wet towel sitting in stinky laundry and it's going to smell way worse.
Well, that's true. That is true. I do it, but it's true. G says Diesel wins 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Cole wins 1. Another texter from the 921 says Diesel sweeps again.
Woo-hoo.
Trying to figure out how Cole adults with his fight takes. Oh, man. Let's see. This comes from the 344. Texter says Cole didn't sweep, just steal some towels. Jesus, says the texter. Good towels can be $20 to $30 a piece. Are you kidding me?
I don't need that bougie of a towel.
Okay, this comes from the 803. Me saying a minute ago that I thought towels were around $5. Well, obviously I was way off on that. I would not be good at the game. What show is it where you have to guess the price? Is that like Price is Right?
Price is Right.
Yeah, I would be terrible there. I'd be awful in Price is Right if I can't guess how much a towel is. Texter from the 587 says, it wasn't that long ago that Diesel was adamant that you should wash your clothes even if you didn't sweat in them. I'm surprised that he doesn't feel the same way about towels. Look at Texter keeping receipts.
What do you mean wash my clothes even if Cole, if I get up in the morning, I put on a pair of gym shorts to walk around the house, right?
I do too.
And then flash forward an hour and a half, it's time to actually put on some real clothes.
No, I'll keep them on.
put on some real clothes and get to work. I don't consider the gym shorts that I just wore for an hour to be dirty, especially like if I didn't go outside, get hot and sweaty, didn't roll around with the dog, whatever. Those aren't dirty. You can still wear those.
No, I agree with that.
Depends on how dirty your butt is. Then you may have to put some underwear on under it.
Excuse me. Texter from the 208 says, fellers, rather, not fellers.
All right. That's how you know you're a Tolo, because you say fellers.
Texter says, fellers, you obviously have never been to a meat processing plant. Hot dogs are lips and assholes, says the texter.
You got to hit that button.
I'm sorry. Sorry, texter.
Hit it twice. There you
texter,
go.
You made me use the dump button.
Yeah, that's one of those words you can't use on the radio.
Well, I read the text. You know what I was doing? I read the text for the very first time without reading the text before I read it, and it came out. So, texter from the 208, you just made me hit the dump button for the first time today. The stream heard it.
First time of the week.
It
probably won't be the only time this week.
Texter, usually I have to hit the dump button for audio or a phone call, right? But now that's the first time I've had to hit it for me, I believe.
Cole hits the dump button the same number of times a week as he changes out his bath towel.
That's true. Hurricane Jeff says, I use a really good fabric softener, and the scent of the fabric softener is still on the towel after a week. Wow. No way. Let's see. I did steal some towels from a hotel once. Texter says, Hunt GPT.
Whoa. Stealing hotel towels. Hotel towels suck.
Yeah,
because they get used so much that they're prickly and rough.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Now,
Who steals hotel towels?
You steal what do you steal from the hotel? Like lotion and soap and Shampoo?
Well, most of them don't even do that anymore, right?
What do you mean?
They don't put the little bottles out anymore. They put a lot of hotels that I go to. Maybe it's because we're Marriott members or whatever. And
bougie. We only use the Marriott.
No, they have they have all the things mounted on the wall in the shower now.
They bathe you you don't have to bathe yourself at the Marriott. Diesel's so bougie, man. He's not us common folk.
That's why it's what you pay extra to have somebody bathe you. That's called the Robert Kraft special.
Hunt GPT says Cole got them Dollar General towels. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Let's see, $5 to $8 a piece from Big Lot, says a texter. This is AJ from the 803. AJ from was that Columbia 803? I think it is.
It is.
Texter says, or AJ says hamburgers. So goes Diesel. No leaning back. Goes with me. And he says he will not answer the towel question.
Oh, man.
Why is that?
You're giving us blue you-know-whats, AJ, from the 803.
203 Diesel asks if you use a separate towel for your body and your head. What?
No.
Who does that?
No.
Why would you do 2 towels per Come on.
If you're a girl and you need it to like wrap up your wet hair, that's who uses 2 towels.
That is a lady, yeah.
I've literally never heard of a man using 2 towels.
I don't think
to dry
that's
himself off
ever
in the shower.
happened. Ever happened.
Come on, Texter. It's not that big. You don't need a separate towel for it.
Texter from the 587 Diesel says hotel towels give you the equivalent of carpet burn. Man, what a good fight today. How about the interaction?
Love it.
And you know what? You Tolos, now I don't want to generalize the Tolos because one of the Tolos made me hit the dump button for a text. So we got to listen, guys. We got to clean it up. We got to clean it up a little bit.
Do better, Tolos. How about that?
Come on, man. And I'm not one to usually let them fly on the air, but I was reading your text and I said, I can't even abbreviate that.
Don't feel bad. You can say a-holes.
Oh, okay. I said a-holes, and I'm sorry, texter. I had to dump it out. That was the wrong use of words. Sorry. I had to use the dump button.
Who was it? I think Madcraft said it's funny how you can use those 2 words separately on the air, but you can't use them together. Yeah, the FCC is a fickle beat, fickle you know what? Because you can use the B word in certain contexts, right?
The funniest part of that whole thing was I said it and I looked at Diesel, and Diesel was just pointing.
Point at the dump button. Come on, man. You know what you did. You know what you did.
Go on the timeout.
Like part of the point, though, like if I can say, man, I had a bitch of a day yesterday. It was a tough day. You could say that. But I can't say that, hey, I think that host from ESPN is a B word. Oh, can't say that. That's the rules.
Gotcha. That makes, I guess, kind of makes sense because you're calling them. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're saying
all it takes is one jerk listener to call the FCC and lodge a complaint.
Yeah,
and then you're in trouble.
If Diesel's solo tomorrow, you know why? Okay, you know why? Because I said a-hole. All right, coming up next, we're going to depart the fight, and we're going to look at 2 teams, Diesel, in the college baseball tournament. Well, one of them's in, one of them's out. I will tell you that I think the committee got this wrong over the weekend. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is The Fan Upstate.
Ooh, you're in trouble, Cole.
Texter said Cole could use a dump button jar. That's good. I like it. Good text. Good text. And then another texter, Diesel says, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we all heard the naughty word on the Odyssey app. Well, that's because you're streaming.
Yeah. We could say whatever we want on streaming.
This is a terrestrial radio.
Use all the F words, the S words, all those words. We can use all that on streaming. It's probably not advisable because our boss doesn't like it. But the dump button only does something to the over-the-air signal.
That's right.
Texter. So if what you hear on the stream, if you're listening on the stream, you're getting the live uncut version.
Yeah, same thing as like TikTok. I mean, you can't even open TikTok without there being a use of profanity. Okay, so hey,
shut it down.
I'm fired. I got an email during the break and said I have been let go from Odyssey Greenville because of my a-hole. It was a good run. Good.
Now you're just celebrating it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm getting fired. Might as well say it 5 more times.
Dump. All right. I do want to get to some audio, some Chad Holbrook audio that was quite depressing. Like it was, he was really upset. Diesel and I, in fact, listened to it before the show. And man, he was really, really impressing. But I do want to start off with a quick story. Just want to send our thoughts, prayers, good vibes, whatever you send to the Murray family. Professional golfer Diesel, Grayson Murray, died over the weekend, and he was participating in a golf tournament. And man, I hate to see stories like this because it was weird that he died so quickly and he was playing. And then a few days later, we get a notification that tells us that, unfortunately he took his life. And it's just a heartbreaking story. And the only thing that I really want to say is to our listeners and our Tolos out there is that, one thing that we do a lot of times in life is that we go throughout our day, every single day. We go through our every day so fast because we all have a million things to do. And we talk to so many different people, right? But I don't think we always understand that everybody is going through something, whether it's good or bad. And just on a quick mental health note, I just want to say, look, if you're struggling with something and you don't feel like it's a battle that you can overcome, it's okay to get help. I would suggest it. I would encourage it. And if you're struggling with any kind of mental health or depression, man, don't let the other side win, right? Like, it's okay to get help. It's okay to say, you know what, I've been struggling lately. Everybody struggles with something, whether it's really, really bad, Diesel, or really minute and small. Everybody struggles.
Yeah, I know a lot of people in those scenarios, Cole, feel like they don't want to be a burden to the people around them. I don't want to lay my issues on somebody else.
Sure.
You're having a good day. I don't want to bring you down, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But, I mean, you don't understand the value that you bring to this world. So don't look at it that way. I mean, talk to somebody. There's a million and one people that you could talk to. If you don't feel comfortable talking to people that you interact with face to face, there are online and over the phone options for doing that very thing. There are you can text a therapist if you feel comfortable doing that. So please do reach out to somebody. Don't isolate yourself and deal with something internally that other people around you can at least. You can't say that somebody can fix what you're going through because everybody's situation is different, but to have somebody just listen or be able to empathize or just to give you an ear to chew on for a while, that's so much more valuable and less burdensome than them dealing with you doing something sudden and drastic.
You're right. And you know what? I'll say this. I've learned, Diesel, that everything that I've gone through in life, every single thing, whether it was a big deal or a small thing, there's somebody out there in this big old world who's also gone through something similar, right? It might not have been the exact same thing or the exact same situation, but somebody out there has gone through something similar. And it's good, like Diesel said, to surround yourself with people. And you may say, well, Cole, this is a sports show. Well, you know what? I don't care. I do not care what you think. This is more important than any sport. This is more important than anything else that could happen the rest of the day. So as Diesel, I'll echo what you said. If you do struggle with mental health, if you do struggle with depression or any kind of thoughts of anything bad, talk to anybody. I mean, it doesn't have to. Yeah, we encourage you to talk to somebody licensed who does that for a living, like a therapist, like Diesel said. But man, just talk to somebody.
I mean, this is not an issue that doesn't affect sports. I mean, look at Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
This is a drastic, crazy case, but I mean, look at Aaron Hernandez. Look at Junior Seau. Look at Gary Speed, the race car driver. I mean, there are many, many athletes who have taken this route, and nobody wants to see that happen.
They don't. And again, our thoughts, prayers, wishes, whatever you send, the vibes you send, just send them toward the Murray family, because that's tough. 30 years old man died by suicide after withdrawing from the Charles Schwab Invitational. It's a tough situation. So as Diesel said, as I've said, look, if you struggle, talk to somebody. If you don't know who to talk to, contact us. Contact Diesel and I, and guess what we'll do? We'll point you in the right direction of somebody who can help you, right? Because we want you to get through what you're going through. All right, let's turn the page. I want to bring up a piece of audio that I played on Friday. So you weren't here, and I had this Gary Gilmore audio. You know, Gary Gilmore, Hall of Fame coach, right? Legend in baseball. I don't know if you've heard this audio yet, but this was at the end of the season. This was last Thursday, and this was what Gary Gilmore said. I want to play the audio, and then I want to fast forward to today, Tuesday. Diesel, as you know, Coastal Carolina made the tournament, right?
In the Clemson Regional.
Yeah, but guess what? Gary Gilmore, if you heard this audio last week when I played it, you would not have thought they would have. Here's what Gary Gilmore said on May 23rd.
We had 1 million opportunities. We left 13 guys on base. We hit 4, all 4 of them scored. It's kind of been who we've been for like 2 months. It's just frustrating. If we pitch good, we don't hit. We hit, we don't have enough pitching to hold it. So it's just kind of who we've been. I have wonderful kids. I love them to death. They're great. There's just like a piece missing. I've been blessed in life to coach some great teams, and great teams have done something. There's just something in here that we have tried to fix all year long, and I'm just not a good enough coach to fix it, and that's the bottom line. Thank Coastal for allowing me to coach for 29 years, and all the players and the coaches and everything is going to be a weird feeling to start being on vacation tomorrow.
What coach you working?
Newsflash, Gary Gilmore, you're not starting vacation tomorrow. Diesel, is that not like, to me, I played that on Friday and we all said the season was over.
Yeah.
Coastal wasn't getting in.
He seems like a guy who knows that his time is done, knows that he's not coaching another baseball game, and to get the shock of being placed into a regional.
Is that here's the $1 million question. And I'll give you my opinion, but I want to hear yours first. Is that a bad look for Gary Gilmore to count the chickens, or I guess count out your team?
I mean, to be emotional, I don't think the team is going to respond very well to that. I mean, how do you face your players in a locker room and they say, Coach, I know you thought this was over, but like, why would you say those things about us? Why would you say that we're inconsistent? Why would you say that? I mean, look, he's not saying anything that the team probably doesn't know.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
I mean, how many times have these hitters hit well and they're frustrated that the pitching can't keep them up? Or how many of the pitchers are frustrated that they can play a really good game, or they can pitch a really good game, and the offense just can't get it done for them and back them up? I mean, it's not like these kids are stupid. They understand. They understand what the team is. But I mean, that just erodes the confidence in your coach.
I agree.
Going down the stretch,
that's tough when
you still got to play games.
That is tough. So Diesel, I think the wrong team got in. I really do. Here's another coach in the state, Chad Holbrook, who was at South Carolina. Do you know that the Florida Gators, who went 28-27, almost 500, got in? College of Charleston. And you're going to hear this audio from a very emotional Chad Holbrook. College of Charleston did not. They checked every single box, and they did not get in. And I'm here to tell you, I think they got snubbed. I think the College of Charleston got snubbed. Here was Chad Holbrook, Diesel, immediately after yesterday's selection show.
I know I should take the high road a little bit more than probably I'm taking it right now, but I'll fall on the sword for my players. And they deserve better.
This is hard, isn't it?
I'm fast forwarding because he's so emotional. You can hear it in his voice.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And have someone in a room that hadn't seen us play to tell us we're not good enough is asinine to me. And again, I was a coach that got fired for going 13-17. I know what a mediocre regular season is that many teams that got in had. And we had a phenomenal regular season, and it was ignored. And, there are teams that got in today that probably sent their players home because they knew they didn't probably deserve to be in. And our kids were denied a chance to keep playing. And 28-5 their last 33, won the regular season. Regular season doesn't matter? Oh, he said it did matter. Now it doesn't matter when it comes to College of Charleston?
That is unbelievable.
41-win team.
28-5 over
Left
their
out.
last 30?
21-5 in conference, 24-9 at home, 15-5 on the road, 2-0 at neutral sites.
How does that happen? Like, where do they go wrong?
Why can't I do wonder, Cole, why conferences cannot essentially protest an elite team like College of Charleston. And we see it every year, right? With the NCAA basketball selection show.
Sure.
Good basketball teams not getting in. There'll be a year where the best team in the league in a one-bid league doesn't win their conference tournament, and then they're just snubbed. They're left out because, well, it's a one-bid league.
Sure.
It's always been a one-bid league. There's nothing we can do about it. Yet they put in, teams that are 500 or barely over 500 in a power league. And the argument always comes back to the same thing. Well, it's tougher to go 500 in a power league than it is to be elite in a small conference. No, I want elite teams.
Yeah.
That's why I want an overhaul in the way they choose the selection for the NCAA tournament. Every time I bring it up, though, I get laughed at. I get run off the stage.
Yeah.
For saying things like every conference should get 2 teams in. I think it's bogus what happened to College of Charleston, and I do hope that what are they in the Big South?
Mm-hmm.
I do hope that the Big South files a formal complaint to the selection committee. It's ludicrous what happened here. And the argument will always be, well, wouldn't a 500 Florida team beat College of Charleston? I don't think so. Not in baseball.
You don't know.
That's what makes baseball so
man.
great. That's what made college baseball so great, is that everybody's operating on as level a playing field as you can because no one is getting a full ride scholarship.
And I'm sorry, they're in the CAA.
Excuse me.
But Diesel, I do not see how they get in, to your point, over a team like Florida, and as well as a team like Coastal, man. He said it. There's guys who sent their team. You heard him. Gary Gilmore said the season's over. I'm going on vacation. So that is such a bad look for the committee. But you know what, man? The worst part of it, Diesel, is nothing will ever happen. It'll get swept under the rug and nothing will come from it. Well, but I hate it for Holbrook.
There's a situation, Cole, that happened very similar to the Campbell who should have hosted. Was it last year or the year before?
It was last year, I believe.
Last year.
I know what you're talking about.
Well, the same thing happened. The Texas A&M regional. Texas A&M is hosting the regional, even though they're not the 1 seed in the region. And I think that kind of stuff is BS, man. I don't like it. Hey, when we come back, Cole, let's turn it from something negative to something happy and fun. And I tell you about a wild story out of the state of North Carolina and what you would do sports-wise with a sudden financial windfall. That's coming up next here on the Fan Upstate 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg, everywhere you are on the free Odyssey app. I shouldn't be mad at this 18-year-old kid I don't know. But again, that's kind of the internet, right? Getting mad at people you don't know. But Cole, damn it, this makes me mad. An 18-year-old high school kid in Fayetteville, North Carolina, won a $1 million lottery.
$1 million.
$1 million.
So
he gave his sister some cash. He's 18, so he can play.
How much tax do they take out of $1 million? Probably,
I'd say 40%.
So he's probably going home with you say that much? Holy crap. So if he won $1 million, he's probably going home with what, $650?
Easily. So
that's rough. That's a lot of tax money taken out.
Yeah.
Still a lot of money, but
I'm trying to figure out how much does the government take out in taxes.
Well,
so state is 7%. They're going to take that's what the state of South Carolina taxes lottery. The federal government takes 24%.
So you're looking at roughly 30.
Yeah,
right?
So roughly 30% is coming out immediately. So $700K. This high school senior winning $700K.
Wow.
If he takes, I mean, who knows? There may be some like lump sum rules or whatever.
$700K.
First of all, screw that kid.
You don't mean that.
That's like, what are you going to do with the money? He's like, I think I'm going to buy an Audi. I'm like, oh, God.
Jeez.
I hate this. I mean, I hate this guy.
Why can I get lucky?
But Cole, like, let's just pretend, let's have some fun with this. Okay. So he's got $700K in the bank right out of high school. If you just got a sudden windfall of $700K, Cole, to go plan your ultimate sports trip, and I'll even allow it to be a couple of weeks, in a row, because you can't just not water your plants or feed your dog for a month.
Yeah.
While you go do your sports thing. And also not everything may be in season. So $1 million minus the 30% taxes that you'd have to pay in the state of South Carolina. How would you plan your ultimate sports trip?
So it has to be sports?
Yeah, it has to be sports.
Okay, well,
This is a sports station after all.
It is. Last time I checked, it is.
Despite what some of the texters say when they text in.
All right, so I had to do a little quick research, and I'll tell you why. If I'm going home with $700K and you say it has to be spent on sports, I'm going NBA Finals, and I'm sitting courtside for all 7 games, hopefully, Boston versus Dallas. Courtside, that would probably cost me $43 or $46 per ticket. So you do the math.
100?
$46,000.
What?
Per ticket courtside.
What?
NBA Finals. So let's take 46 times 7. Do you have a calculator on you? 40.
That's still blowing me away that it's 46 G's per ticket.
Yeah.
Who is spending this besides Spike Lee?
That's the high. The low was $27,000.
Okay, so let's just call it in the middle.
Yeah, let's call it 30.
30.
30 times 7.
30 times 7. 30,000.
Yep, 30,000 times 7.
$210,000.
So 210 of the 700 is gone.
That's a third. That's roughly a third of your money.
Well, that's where a third of that 700 would go if I won it. So I'd be left with what, 5? $500,000? Is that right?
You'd be left with $500,000.
And I could find something to do sports-wise with that $500,000, but the first $200K would go to the NBA Finals, me sitting right there so I can be right in the action. What about you?
I would do the ultimate weekend by weekend by weekend flyaway trip to college football venues that I could pick and choose week in and week out. So I've already done the math on this here, Cole.
Okay.
According to Google, the cost to rent a private jet that fits 9 people is roughly $6,000 an hour. 6 G's an hour. And you can get across the continental U.S. in 5 hours in a plane. So a cross-country flight would cost you $30,000. Of course, you got to fly back, so now that's $60,000.
Sure.
But Cole, I've done the math here. I could start right here in Greenville. I could catch a game at Clemson. I could catch a game at South Carolina. Then I could fly to an SEC game in less than an hour. So that's $6K. Go catch a second game. So a noon kickoff. Hell, I could drive down, catch Clemson, Georgia at noon.
God,
Fly somewhere in the SEC,
maybe
catch
like Kirk Herbstreit.
like Ole Miss, somebody, or A&M, Notre Dame.
Mhm.
That's the nightcap.
Yeah.
But I could fly somewhere else in between. So I could catch 3 games. If I'm flying private, you just walk right up to the runway, get on the plane, and go.
Sure.
So
How many weeks could you do that for, though?
I did the math. I could do that for 8 epic weeks.
Wow.
8 weeks.
I was going to guess 10.
And I don't need expensive tickets. I don't need luxury boxes. Give me row 40, 50-yard line. That's all I'm looking for. So we're talking like maybe 100, 150, 200 tops, $250 a ticket for a lot of these games.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about like A&M, Notre Dame is going to cost you a little bit more. I get that. But like I could have an incredible weekend for roughly $65,000 and I could do that 8 times.
Yeah.
8 or 9 times for my money.
That's a good splurge. I'm for it.
Yeah.
$700K to an 18-year-old. Man, what a time.
I did learn, Cole, that there is essentially Uber for private planes.
Yeah.
And you can fly private on the dead leg back from when the plane drops off the real high rollers.
Yeah.
Like if it flies from New York City to Dallas, if you take the dead leg from Dallas back to New York City, you can essentially get on that plane for dirt cheap and fly private for nothing.
Well, Diesel's gotten more bougie on us, from his Marriotts to his
fancy towels,
fancy jets,
flying private, baby.
All right, Diesel, 6 o'clock, very next segment. You and I look at the totality, the entire regionals of the NCAA baseball tournament. There are 4 teams from South Carolina that got in. We'll tell you who they are and our thoughts and reactions on what the committee did yesterday in college baseball. Going back to our previous conversation, Texter says, I would rent a very nice Coach RV motorhome and leave my house for 3 months and just go to college football game, to NASCAR, to golf, to national parks all around the country. I like that, Texter. That comes from the 549.
You know, they tax the ever-loving crap out of motorhomes now.
No, I
They
don't know
tax
that.
it as a second luxury home.
Oh, well, kind of is. Texter from the 431 with about 700K. I think that's more than the Panthers are worse. I'd buy them out of their misery. Oh, I'd buy them and put them out of their misery. Good texter. I like it. All right. Diesel, the D1 baseball regionals were announced yesterday all across the nation. Colleges found out if they were going to the big dance, if you will. I know that's what the term we use for basketball, but I'm going to use it today for baseball as well. You just heard audio a few minutes ago from coaches like Chad Holbrook after his team, in my opinion, got snubbed. But let's go through and look at what teams we think Diesel will be able to make a run based on where they are, right? We say it all the time that situations matter.
Mm-hmm.
Where you are matters. And I don't want to say you don't have to be a good team, but there are some teams that have very, very favorable regionals. Like, for example, I'll give you a great example. Georgia was one of the most red-hot teams to end the season. We saw what they did to South Carolina. They got their own regional in Athens, Georgia, Army, UNC Wilmington, and Georgia Tech. So, again, you still have to go play the game, right? But to me, Diesel, that is a cakewalk for a team like Georgia, who's been playing really, really good. So where you get put really, really matters in a good way, and also could be in a bad way as well if you're going up against some tough teams.
I would agree, Cole. And as we scroll down, you look at the Bryan College Station Regional.
Yeah.
Texas A&M is hosting. They've got Grambling.
Oh.
Louisiana is going to be a tough out in that regional. Louisiana is a really tough team. So they're going to have Texas in their regional.
That's a tough
as
regional.
well. That is a very tough regional.
That's tough compared to like Athens.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got A&M, Louisiana, and Texas in that regional, and somebody's got a sense of humor putting Texas in there with Texas A&M. I love it. That's going to be a tough one to get out of.
It is.
The Chapel Hill regional is brutal if you're Wofford.
How about them T-Dogs,
Yeah, they got to
baby?
take on LSU. And then, oh, by the way, they've got North Carolina on the other side of the bracket. That's going to be a really hard one to come out of if you're not North Carolina or LSU.
Well, LSU can put up the runs. North Carolina has the pitching. I don't know about Long Island, but I do know that if you're Wofford, listen, you made the regional. Fantastic. Congratulations. Heck of a year. Todd Interdonato, the former coach, now at Boston College. So you have some new regime in Spartanburg. Congratulations. I guess it's a win getting there, and it would be icing on the cake, Diesel, to get one win. Maybe you get matched up with Long Island. You knock them off. But that is tough for Wofford. That's a really tough one. Not much interest for me in Charlottesville. Virginia, Penn, Mississippi State, and St. John's. Again, to me, looks like Virginia, Cupcake Regional. Mississippi State's a good team. They really are. But I think I like Virginia there. I wouldn't be surprised if Mississippi State gave Virginia a game. But, Penn, St. John's, doesn't really move the meter for me.
Yeah, you really got to look at who's the 3 seed in these regionals and kind of get a good sense of, all right, is this regional really 3 good teams deep, or is it really 1 and 2? For some odd reason, they've got Penn listed as the 4 seed. They got Penn and St. John's both listed as the 4 seed in this regional.
I don't think that's really possible.
That's a weird one. But yeah, this is not a 3 deep regional.
Well, how about Diesel, the number 6 national seed, Eric Bakich led Clemson Tigers, hosting High Point on Friday. That's a 1 versus a 4. And then the 2 and the 3. Vanderbilt and Coastal Carolina. I like this.
I like it. I think this one's going to be, not a cakewalk,
what's your name?
Especially considering how up and down they've been over the past couple of weeks. But Vanderbilt is not the Vanderbilt of old. Coastal is not the Coastal of old. We heard from his coach, from their coach in the very last segment, who was ready to put on his flip flops and size his Tommy Bahama T-shirt and get out there on the sand somewhere. So I think Clemson, they may face some good opposition out of Vanderbilt, but they're not going to face elite opposition out of Vanderbilt. This is a 2-deep regional. Should be relatively easy for Clemson to come out of it.
Are you implying that Gary Gilmore was on the way to the nearby Wings? Is that what those stores are called in Myrtle Beach?
The Wings. Waves. Yeah, let's get that guy an airbrush T-shirt and a hermit crab, because that's where he is in his mind right now.
That is funny. That is funny. You think the season's over, and then all of a sudden,
just when I thought that I was out, they pulled me back in.
Hey, by the way, caller, I could not get you. I think you had a little bit of bad service, or it might have been connection on my end, but try us again.
Yeah, we have been having some phone issues today, so bear with us a little bit.
Diesel didn't pay the bill, man. I told him to pay the bill, but he didn't pay the station bill. So when you look at Clemson's regional, Vanderbilt, I have seen Diesel something on social media over the weekend, really in the last 24 hours, that doesn't surprise me, but there is a contingent of Clemson media who is kind of acting like this is the Vandy of old. I saw some very negative comments about how Clemson get put in the same regional as Vandy. Listen, Vanderbilt still, they still have the respect with Tim Corbin. They still are a really good team, but this is not the Vanderbilt of old from a few years ago that couldn't lose, right? I don't think this is a big of a deal as people think. Vanderbilt, remember, 38-21 overall, but in the SEC, Diesel, 13-17. Very comparable to South Carolina's SEC record, right? 13 conference wins. They were not good on the road, 4-12 on the road this year. I don't know that Clemson fans should be scared of a team like Vanderbilt. Should they? Or am I wrong on this?
Well, we're going to come back to that same conversation. Is a middle-of-the-road SEC team better than an elite ACC team? That's ultimately what we're going to find out. I mean, the conference RPI would suggest that having a 500 or near 500 record in the SEC is better than having a much better than 500 record in the ACC.
Texter from the 297 says Vandy is a tough matchup. Another texter says Clemson has been playing like dog crap. While I would agree, texter, that Clemson has not been playing the best, I would not say they've been playing like dog crap. You have to remember, during the ACC tournament, Diesel and I had the audio on Thursday. Eric Bakich basically said, and I'm not paraphrasing, I'm summarizing. Eric Bakich basically said, Diesel, and tell me if I'm off on this, these games aren't the games we're trying to win. We're saving our pitching for next week, right?
Right, he did say that.
So to say they're playing like dog crap, maybe a little bit of a stretch. I do think Clemson has a pitching issue. I don't think it's a huge concern right now, but I do think it's a minor issue because there have been way too many runs allowed. And yeah, you listen, Clemson homers, you can throw out all these stats about how when it comes down to pitching, your stat. I heard them. We heard them last week. The guest, I get it. But at the end of the day, you're allowing way too many runs. And in order to make a run to the Super Regionals or Omaha, you better get a little bit better. You better get the most. You better get something a little bit more out of your staff because you can't allow these amount of runs that Clemson has.
Well, Cole, you can't blow smoke and hype up how good of a regional win it is if you don't also blow smoke and hype up how good Vanderbilt is.
Texter that was talking about, and by the way, I agree with you, Diesel, but the texter that was talking about Clemson been playing like dog crap says they got waxed by Miami and needed the bottom of the 8th or bottom of the 9th comeback to beat Louisville. Texter, listen to me. You did not have your best pitching out there. That really, in baseball, really does matter, right? It helps to have your best pitching.
And it was meaningless baseball. With pool play, the way well, you told me I hadn't really wrapped my mind around how pool play works in the ACC tournament. When you explained to me, well, yeah, they won their last game, but then that was it. Like, it didn't matter. It didn't matter because they lost their first game. I was like, I stared at you with my mouth open, like, what? This
is the dumbest thing.
You don't win and keep playing in the ACC tournament? Are they aware of what a tournament is?
I don't know why the ACC does this. I really don't.
So stupid.
The SECs and everybody else, it's great.
And look, I respect Don Munson a lot. We had him on the show early last week to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's flat out wrong saying that this is a good structure. It's not a good structure. The ACC's baseball tournament structure sucks.
It's not the greatest, and it's not the
hello. You play to win the game.
Yeah, you would think. Would think so. I'll tell you one I think that is interesting. As you look down throughout the rest of the regionals, Arkansas has been a very good team, one of the best teams all season. The Fayetteville Regional consists of Arkansas, Southeast Missouri State, Kansas State, and Louisiana Tech. Louisiana Tech is a really good team. Arkansas is a team that I don't want to say is vulnerable, but I do think that there are some teams in this tournament like Louisiana Tech, like a Southern Miss, that could give teams problems. Now, I'm not saying if Tennessee runs into Southern Miss in the Knoxville Regional, Southern Miss is going to knock them off, but there are some teams that are, as you said a minute ago, Diesel, it happens in baseball. It does. And you just can't assume that just because somebody has a higher seed, they're going to win. Tennessee has Northern Kentucky, Southern Mississippi, and Indiana. You can't assume, they won the SEC. You can't assume that their pitching matchup against a team like Northern Kentucky or Southern Miss is going to be what you'd expect. You just never know.
Cole, I'm a little confused by the Norman Regional and just who ended up in that region. Oklahoma as the 1, Duke as the 2, UConn as the 3, Oral Roberts as the 4. Now, Oral Roberts makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah.
Because it's in Tulsa.
Okay.
It's in Oklahoma.
Sure.
So it makes sense to put them there. If you'd asked me that yesterday, I would not have been able to tell you where Oral Roberts is.
But Connecticut and Duke.
But UConn and Duke being in the Norman Regional, it feels like they just were like, we're kind of out of
out of host sites.
Out of host sites. This doesn't really fit. So, all right, all you guys just go in there.
It'd have made more sense for Duke to be in Knoxville, right?
Yeah, it would put them in Knoxville, put them in Greenville. Just think how brutal that Greenville Regional would be if it was East Carolina, Wake, Duke, and either Evansville or VCU.
So that Greenville Regional that you referenced is hosted by number 16 national seed ECU. By the way, a really good baseball team, Eastern Carolina. They have a really good shot of being in the Supers. However, I don't love Eastern's matchup potentially with Wake. Wake's a good team. Number 2 Wake Forest or number 2 seed Wake Forest. You saw Wake sweep Clemson not long ago, right? And Clemson was the number 2 team in the country when Wake swept Clemson. So I love Eastern Carolina. I just don't know that I love that matchup.
ECU won 43 games this year. They took 2 of 3 versus North Carolina.
That's impressive.
They played in 1 in Chapel Hill, 1 in Fayetteville, 1 in Greenville, North Carolina.
Wow.
They beat Purdue. Outside of that, they beat NC State. God, they beat the tar out of NC State back in April, 12-4. So, they beat them again, 10-6 in April.
They're a good team, man.
They're a really good team. A tight loss to Duke in early May. But outside of that, I think East Carolina's got a really attractive resume as a baseball team. They've won big games against big teams.
How good would that matchup be for a chance to go to the Supers, Wake versus ECU? That'd be a great baseball game. Really good. Texter says, the one that was talking about Miami and Clemson not playing well. Texter says, I'm a Gamecock fan. I hate Clemson. Texter, I'm not hitting the dump button again, okay?
I'm not going to jail for you or for anybody.
He says, I hope they collapse in their own regional. We'll see. Monty Lee's Clemson teams were not the best in their own regionals, but we will see what Eric Bakich has. South Carolina Gamecocks, Diesel. They are in Raleigh. No, they're not going to see the Hurricanes. Hurricane season's over. You have South Carolina, 2 seed, versus the number 3 seed, James Madison. James Madison's it seems like James Madison's good in every sport.
Yeah, they peaked at exactly the right time.
Are they
Good God.
Are they bad at anything? Because they're really good in basketball. I mean, they're decent in football.
Really? Yeah. Good in football, good in basketball, good in baseball.
Jeez.
What are they not good at right now? Who do they sell their souls to?
So Raleigh consists of South Carolina, James Madison, NC State, and Bryant. South Carolina, in my opinion, as we discussed earlier, Diesel, I think the Gamecocks have a chance to get out of this thing. NC State did not play a single SEC team all season. Not one. Zero. Nada. Mil. None. Okay? I think that South Carolina obviously has issues on their starting rotation. However, if they can get into a game with NC State and get a game away and be a game away from going to the Supers, South Carolina, NC State, as well as South Carolina's been hitting the ball, you can't count them out. You cannot. And I think, South Carolina fans don't want to see it because they want their coach gone, but they have a good shot, man. They really do.
Yeah, James Madison, they didn't play the toughest schedule. Not obviously, they didn't fill a lot of the midweek games with Power 5 opponents. However, let's see, they went 1-3 against Arkansas to start the season. They beat Virginia Tech 8-7 again early in the season in February. Outside of that, Cole, they didn't play. Let's see, I'm scrolling down. I see they lost to Maryland in April, but they didn't play the toughest out of conference schedule.
Yeah.
They had no contest with Virginia Tech in May. So I think South Carolina is going to handle James Madison relatively easily, at least in that first matchup.
I'm excited.
It's a different story when you play NC State. I think they're a much better team, and they're going to give you a run.
I can't wait. I love postseason college baseball. Texter from the 549 says, I wanted the Gamecocks to play at Clemson because nothing would make me more happy than knocking them off in their own house. Well, Texter, didn't happen. I thought it might happen, though. Any ones that we missed before we hit a break? I know Tallahassee consists of – here's an interesting one, Diesel. Tallahassee, Florida State is obviously the 1 seed, 8 national seed. You have Stetson, Alabama, and Central Florida. Is that – Alabama's a really good team. Again, you've said it twice already. We'll find out. I love these postseason matchups because you have ACC, SEC. I don't want to say it defines – listen – I don't believe in postseason games or bowl games defining what makes a conference good. But when it comes to postseason baseball, you got to hold your own.
I love the committee's ability to just place teams in regionals together who otherwise wouldn't play each other or won't play each other. Putting Florida State and Central Florida in there. Central Florida is going to be hyped up to play Florida State. Any chance you get at taking a scalp from the Power 5 in-state school is always great. That's why I think, the bowl season needs to be revamped instead of having these contractual matchups where you put two teams from 1,000 miles apart playing in a neutral site that's 500 miles for each of them or 1,000 miles from both of them. Nobody's going to attend. Nobody's going to care. I love these in-state matchups. I want to see them as much as I possibly can. And I think college football with the non-playoff bowl games could learn a thing or two from the way college baseball sets up their regionals.
Last thing from me on this segment, Diesel, a couple of quick notes. These are really good nuggets about this year's tournament, okay? It is possible that we could see a repeat champion. Reigning champion LSU, who won it all last year in a blowout game, we remember. They are in the field of 64. The sport of college baseball, Diesel, has not seen a repeat champion at the D1 level since 2010 and 2011. Guess who? The South Carolina Gamecocks were the last team to repeat. The SEC also set an all-time record with 11 tournament teams. In the tournament, there were 3 teams this year that appeared for the first time ever. High Point, Niagara, Northern Kentucky, all appearing in the D1 tournament for the first time ever. Last nugget, Vandy, who's in Clemson's regional, Diesel. Vanderbilt owns the longest active streak of tournament appearances. This year's bid pushes that to 18 straight appearances. Is that not wild? 18 straight college baseball tournament appearances? That is so – Tim Corbin, the job that he's done, by the way, who was an assistant at Wofford College, he's done an incredible job. And 18 straight tournaments. That is hard to match.
We have a texter here who asks a very real question. Why is the Big Ten so bad at baseball? Texter, the Big Ten only got 3 teams in to postseason play, and they don't have a single host. Nebraska's a 2 seed, Oregon's a 3, Illinois is a 3.
Baseball is dominant in the
South.
In the South.
There is something to be said, texter, for the ability to practice outdoors year round, to not have to shovel snow off the field anytime you want to go run the bases. I mean, you can set up bases inside somewhere, and I'm sure some of these schools have invested in indoor practice facilities, and they have the ability to put bases down in the turf somewhere. But it's just not the same.
Not the same.
It's not, and especially speaking from my school, my only perspective, with cold weather climate, you got to start a lot of the season on the road. So you end up losing. You have a tougher road, playing a lot of road games early because it's still too cold. I don't know if you know this, texture. It ain't fun to play baseball in Minnesota in February.
And because of that, you can't put the same investment in baseball. Like, people don't realize that. You can't invest in it when you, like you said, have to worry about freaking sleet and snow every day. It's tough.
Yeah, this isn't Grapefruit League or Cactus League.
Yeah.
Where they're out, playing in Florida or playing in Texas or Arizona or wherever to start the season.
Sure.
I mean, looking at Minnesota's schedule, they're playing on the road. Oregon State, in Arizona. They're playing in Florida, California. When did they play their first home game?
I'll guess April 30th.
I had it and then I lost it. Where did it go? They didn't play a game in Minnesota until March 15th.
Oh, I was way off.
St. Olaf College. And then they went right back on the road and were playing games in the state of North Carolina. So they don't play a whole lot of games up north early. You don't get all that home field advantage that you get if you're playing in South Carolina or in Georgia or in Texas or in Florida. When we come back, Cole, we're going to keep it on the diamond. We're going to go to the pro level and talk to our good friend Jake Mastriani of Locked On Braves. Find him on Twitter at ShortstopBall. We talk all things Braves. Why is the injury bug catching up to them so badly, and how much faith does he have in the Braves to turn it around? Still now with about 2/3 of the season to go. That's on the other side, right here on the Fan Upstates. of the Locked On Braves podcast. Jake, we appreciate your time today. Can you make us feel maybe just a little bit better about what we're seeing over the past 5 or 6 games with all of the injuries?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing I can say is you're getting Austin Riley and Sean Murphy back, and hopefully that's going to help get an offense going. It's been rough, even with Ronald Acuna Jr., and certainly I would rather have him than not. But, I think this offense still has plenty of talent there and is capable of still accomplishing all the goals that they set out to. And just you lose Spencer Strider, you lose Ronald Acuna Jr., that's going to make it a lot harder. But, this is why they were one of the favorites coming into the season, because it is such a deep team, and they're probably one of very few teams, maybe them and the Dodgers, that could lose their best pitcher, their best position player, and still have a talented enough team to be able to get to the postseason and possibly win a World Series.
Jake, do you really believe that, though? And I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Do you really believe that going against teams like LA or Philadelphia that they'll have to go against in the postseason, that Atlanta, without Strider and Acuna, are still one of the better teams?
I believe anything after 2021. I mean, if you would have told me going into that postseason how confident I felt in that team winning a World Series, I probably wouldn't have said not all that confident. And I think this roster, at least on paper, is better than that 2021 team. And we've seen it. The last 2 seasons, the teams there were better than that 2021 team, at least on paper. But it all comes down to how you're playing come postseason time. And I feel like, Matt Olson, Austin Riley, what Marcell Ozuna is doing, what we know Michael Harris is capable of. Ozzie Albies is an all-star. There's still just so much talent on here. Max Fried's an ace. Chris Sale's looking like an ace. The bullpen is very deep. So, yes, I very much still believe that this team is good enough to still win a World Series, go up against those teams. And like you said, or like I said, it's all about, how you're playing at that time come October. And if this team is clicking at the right point, they're certainly not now. Hopefully they're getting that out of the way. But I think they're more than capable of still winning a World Series.
Make sure you find and follow Locked On Braves across all your favorite social platforms. Jake, it feels obviously at this point like this team is a tale of the walking wounded, but can you put it into perspective and compare the Braves injury situation with other MLB clubs? Obviously they still have a solid record to this point, despite all of the injuries. Other teams are fighting injuries as well. It's just a part of the game, but how do the Braves stack up against some of the other best teams in the league?
Yeah, that's kind of hard to quantify. Everybody's dealing with injuries, especially, pitcher injuries. Even the Dodgers, they've had a lot of arms. Walker Buehler's coming back from a second. Tommy John, and hasn't quite looked like himself. Clayton Kershaw, a veteran, he's still trying to fight his way back. They've had a couple of young arms there that have gone down. Dustin May's still somebody that's trying to work his way back. It's particularly on the pitching side of things. It's just how many of your arms can you keep healthy for the postseason? And that's something we still, don't know. It's something that's hurt the Braves the last 2 postseasons. Now, the offense was why they ultimately sputtered and got bounced out last year. But last 2 postseasons, the Braves have gone in with a couple of injured starters. And it's all just kind of timing and making sure that you keep your guys as healthy and as fresh as you can for that postseason run. But injuries in general in baseball are up more than we've ever seen, particularly pitcher injuries. I know we've talked about that on here before, just the fact that pitchers are doing things we've never seen before. And it's why you always have to have arms available and coming up ready to go. See, the Braves are calling up prospect Spencer Schwellenbach to start on Wednesday. You have to have 11, 12, 13 starters in order to get through a regular season. And like I said, just hope some of those guys, your best guys, are healthy and ready to go for the postseason. So the Braves aren't the only one dealing with it, but you're not going to find too many teams that have the NL Cy Young favorite and the NL MVP favorite going into the year, and you lose both of those guys for the rest of the season going into the first 2 months. That's a lot to overcome. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I still think there's enough talent there for them to get the job done.
Now, Jake, I love the fact that you do a Miners Monday segment on your show. Can you tell us a little bit more about Spencer Schwellenbach, Braves number 3 prospect that they're calling up?
Yeah, I love Spencer Schwellenbach. I had him rated as my number 4 prospect coming into the year. I was really impressed. I usually go back every offseason and just do a deep dive on all the Braves prospects. I don't have a lot of time during the season to really watch them, but I had Schwellenbach as my number 3 behind Smith Shawver, Waldrop, and J.R. Ritchie, who's out for the season with Tommy John. But I really love the control from Spencer Schwellenbach. He was a 2-way player in college at Nebraska that had a really good arm, and for them, he'd come in and close games out. So it's another one of these guys the Braves kind of, took a flyer on as somebody they thought had the athleticism to make it on the mound as a starter. And he's blossomed, and he's taken off. And it's just a really good feel for a fastball that's, sits mid-90s, but he can get it up into the upper 90s. So he has a lot of velocity. He has a good slider as well, a really good pitch for him. A good changeup that I thought was really impressed with on some of my watches, again, when I was watching him last offseason. He's been off to a great start this year. He started the year in high A, which I was a little surprised just because he is older. I mean, he's older than AJ Smith-Shawver. He's 23, like I said, being a college guy. So they started him out at high A, and there he was just ridiculous. But they moved him up to double A, where he's been even more untouchable. 13 innings at double A, 5 hits, 17 strikeouts, just 1 walk. So really good control. The one question about him coming into this season, he hadn't struck out a ton of batters so far professionally. 65 innings last year, just 55 strikeouts. He's been doing that more this season, but still it's a 207 opponent's batting average against last year. It's just 215 this year. So just a guy with really good stuff, good movement, good command, doesn't give up a lot of hits. So we'll see what he can do. It was a bit surprising that they called him up. I did not see that coming. Thought maybe they would give Hurston Waldrop a chance first, but maybe just with the way things lined up with where they were in the rotation, going to give Schwellenbach a chance. So excited to see what he can do.
Jake Mastriani, Locked On Braves, joining us on Wire to Wire with Cole and Diesel. Jake, what do you think about the free agency market now? With Strider going out early in the season, a lot of Braves fans were asking, do you go get someone in the free agency market or acquire someone via trade? Now that you lost your best player, do you really consider that?
So a free agency is obviously very hard to predict right now, especially for starting pitchers. But I think if Alex Anthopoulos is going to do anything to upgrade, either of those spots, and we don't know what the future looks like for Ronald. We know he's out the rest of this year, but hopefully we'll back some point next year. And again, that could be a long process for him coming back from that, as we saw the first time around when he tore the ACL on the other knee. So if Alex Anthopoulos is going to make a move to upgrade either of those spots, to my mind, it's more likely that he goes the trade route. It's more likely that he uses the depth of young pitching prospects that they have, whether that be a Smith-Shawver, a Waldrop, a Schwellenbach, a Ritchie, an Owen Murphy. I mean, they just have a long list of really good pitching prospects that I think they could use to go out and get somebody, who has more of a track record and somebody that they can stick into the rotation long term. So I'd be looking for arms at this deadline and maybe even in the offseason, guys that have years of control, because that's really what you're wanting right now, because you don't know the future of the rotation without Max Fried, without Charlie Morton, and not really knowing the status of Spencer Strider, when he can be back to looking like Spencer Strider. So Alex Anthopoulos, I trust him wholeheartedly. He's obviously done an amazing job here. So I'm sure he is turning over every stone right now trying to find the answers.
Jake, tell us about the dynamic between Alex Anthopoulos and Brian Snitker. How does Brian Snitker, is he the type of manager that wants to be left alone to figure things out and shake up his own lineup his own way? Is Alex Anthopoulos a little bit of a hands-on guy? Is he a laissez-faire, hands-off-the-wheel kind of thing? Who is pressuring who right now to make moves?
Yeah, I mean, if you believe Alex Anthopoulos, and I do, he generally says he leaves all that to Brian Snitker. He brings the guys in and then he lets Snitker decide what to do with them. Now, how much I generally believe that, I don't know. I think they're certainly, with the way analytics are today, that's got to play into it. But I mean, Snitker generally, as long as everybody's healthy, he puts out a lineup, and that's the lineup for a while. It's not like he is changing things up every day to play matchups, which would tell me that Snitker is the one pretty much controlling the ship, at least as far as the lineup goes. Now, he's going to have to figure some things out here with Ronald, who's a mainstay at the top of your order, and that's going to force him to kind of switch things up a little bit. But from what you hear from Alex Anthopoulos is, he is just his main focus is to bring in the guys who, not only fit with what they can do on the field, but fit in the clubhouse. And then he leaves it up to Snitker and that coaching staff to put things together. And Snitker has a good coaching staff there. I know they lost EY, I know they lost Wash, but still a lot of really good managers there. Walt Weiss, who's been a manager himself, still helping Snitker in that regard. So I believe he mainly leaves it up to that coaching staff to put things together.
Jake, how much concern do you have when you discuss A.J. Smith-Shawver and his injury history?
I mean, not too much for him. I mean, he's still a young kid. He doesn't have a lot of mileage on the arm, and it's not like it was a shoulder or an elbow or anything. It was an oblique that he had. So I don't know what's going on with the obliques this year for the Braves. Maybe that's something that needs to have a deeper dive into, but I'm not overly concerned about it. I mean, he is somebody, like I said, doesn't have a lot of workload under his belt anyway. So there was probably a spot this season where the Braves were maybe going to dial back his innings some. So this kind of helps in that. Of course, at some point you want to see him be able to get that innings limit up and be able to go beyond, 100 innings and more, which he hasn't been able to do yet. So, but I'm not overly worried about A.J. Smith-Shawver. You hate it, the timing of it, because it looked like he was going to get another opportunity, and I was very impressed with what I saw from him. So certainly hate it for his sake, but I think he'll be okay long term.
Jake, I give you a lot of credit for, to this point at least, not piling on, Angel Hernandez and his retirement. It seems like taking shots at Angel is like grabbing the town doorknob. Everybody gets a turn. So credit to you for not going there yet. But I do want to ask you your opinion thus far of Chris Sale. He's a guy who was seen as a guy who had a lot of potential if he could stay healthy, and boy, has he. He's only gone 8-1, 2.1 ERA, 78 strikeouts. I mean, it's still early in the season, obviously, but has what we've seen from Chris Sale so far really surprised you?
It surprised me in the sense that he's a Cy Young candidate. I didn't think he would be that. Now, the underlying metrics that I saw when the Braves made the move from him, the underlying metrics I saw from what he did with the Red Sox last year told me he still has really good stuff, and he has the ability to be a really good pitcher. The only real question mark that I had coming into the season was, could he stay healthy? And to this point, and again, it's very early, he has proven that. But, if you had asked me beginning of the year, do I think he's going to be, a Cy Young contender, 2 months through the season, I probably would have said no, but I think he's still going to be a very good, mid threes, maybe high threes ERA type of pitcher. And he has certainly been even better than that. So I'm not surprised by the fact that he's still a good pitcher, but the fact that he's been, a Cy Young contender is a bit surprising. And again, where would this Braves team, this rotation be without, the move or the trade for Chris Sale and the signing of Ronaldo Lopez, two guys that have been huge. The Braves have needed starting pitching to step up with the way the offense has been going here for the past month. And those two guys in particular have done a great job.
Jake, one thing that I really find interesting is that, for the past 6 to 8 years, after the rebuild, we've seen what is the prime Atlanta Braves right now. And we know that in 2021, AA made a lot of moves midseason to bring guys in and ultimately help them win the World Series. But the last few years, even with the talent that Atlanta has had on their roster, what can you put a finger on in terms of the exact reason that you think Philadelphia looks to be the thorn in the Braves' side? And I guess the second part of that question is, could you see them being that thorn again this year?
Certainly could. The Phillies are a great team. I said that coming in. I feel like a lot of people were pointing to the Braves and the Dodgers, and rightfully so, but a lot of people were leaving the Phillies out, and I don't really understand that because they're a very good team, and they got Trey Turner. I mean, who I know is injured right now, but Bryce Harper, it's a really good team. And Zach Wheeler looks like the best pitcher in baseball. I mean, there's a lot of talent there. So the Phillies definitely could continue to be that thorn in the side of the Braves. Now, why the Braves haven't gotten it done the last 2 years, I mean, that's as good a guess as anybody's, because on paper, those are the two most talented teams I've seen in quite some time. And last year's team in particular was, I think, by far the best team in baseball, over 162. I don't think you'll find too many people who would dispute that. But just for whatever reason, come postseason time, it just wasn't there. Now, what's the same about the last 2 years? It's a new postseason format, and I hate to just make excuses. I'm sure fans don't want to hear excuses, but nobody really who's gotten that bye has done well in the new postseason format, sans the Houston Astros. So I don't know if that's part of it, trying to figure out a way how to get the offense hot through all those off days. But the Phillies just are, they're a team. They kind of have that it factor. There's a lot of good guys over there that play with an edge, are very fired up. You get them in that postseason environment, they seem to play up to that. Their fans do as well, a great home environment. So they just seem to have that edge to them that the Braves have been missing the past couple of years. It's something that also, talking to Chris Sale, something they thought he could bring to this team, a little bit more fire for them. But again, I know baseball fans hate to hear this, but it just really comes down to how you're playing come October. In the last 2 Octobers, the Braves just, for whatever reason, haven't played their best ball playing against the Phillies.
Jake, I'm going to ask you to use your imagination a little bit on this, my final question here, because I know one of these stadiums, you probably are not old enough to have ever experienced a game in it. So, but I know as a longtime Braves fan, I'm sure you've seen some photos and you've heard some stories. So I want you to power rank in their prime Fulton County Stadium, Turner Field, and Truist Park. You know, one of the great things about baseball is that it's so rooted in tradition that sometimes the older parks with less amenities just feel better to us, right? And just because Truist Park is newest and it's got all the shiny things doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. So do me a favor and power rank Fulton County Stadium, Turner Field, and Truist Park.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. I've been to all three. Obviously, Fulton, I was pretty young, so I don't have as many memories there, but, you know, obviously a lot of postseason runs there, you know, fans hanging signs over the balconies there, or not the balconies, but the concourses there is a big memory for me as a kid. But Turner Field's always kind of been where my heart is, because that's, you know, kind of where I grew up, you know, going to Braves games a lot more often, especially in my high school, college years. And I just loved Turner Field. I loved the atmosphere there. It was great. And I said, Truist will never match that, but I'm starting to come around. It's a good ballpark, but what Truist has done that Turner Field just couldn't match is just the environment around it. And it's a whole different scene now at Truist, because it's not just the game. You walk outside the stadium after the game, and it's like the party continues. And, you know, it's just a whole different vibe. It's a whole new experience going to a game at Truist. If you're talking about just inside the stadium itself during the game, I probably would prefer Turner Field. But if you're just talking about a whole, you know, all-encompassing, you know, experience, Truist Park's been really great, and obviously by attendance and everybody there, everybody seems to love it and enjoy it. So I don't know if that's a cop-out answer or not, but that's kind of my feelings on it.
Jay, great stuff, man. We appreciate you hopping on with us, and hopefully the Braves can turn this thing around come summertime or early August.
Yeah, they usually do.
That is Jake Mastriani of Locked On Braves. Always a fantastic interview. We appreciate him joining us every other Monday to give us a Braves update and give us some great Atlanta Braves insight. On the other side, we will wrap up the show. Daily Wires, your final thoughts, your last chance to get involved right here on the Fan Upstate.
If you watch the Olympics with crumbs on your shirt and cheese dust on your fingers and say, I can do that, you're listening to The Right Show.
You're going wire to wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Hey, this is Diesel. I want to tell you about our great friends over at Ingles Markets. Now, I got a text message from my wife about a half an hour ago. She says, I'm not really feeling great. Could you pick up something for dinner? And that puts me in panic mode. Like, oh no, what am I going to do? Well, easy answer. So I'm going to stop by the deli at Ingles Markets, where you can get fresh, ready-to-eat, prepared meals right out of the deli case. It's absolutely fantastic. You can get rotisserie chickens. You can get fresh sandwiches, party platters for any occasion. One of my favorite things to do is to get a couple of the Asian food boxes, you know, like General Tso's chicken or sweet and sour chicken or something like that. They've got all of that stuff ready to go. Hot prepared meals just for you inside the Ingles Deli. Now, if I wanted to go a little bit bigger than that, well, why don't I stop by the meat department and grab a nice juicy steak? Anybody feeling good? I don't know about you, Cole, but whenever I feel bad, if somebody puts a steak in front of me, I feel much, much better. And at Ingles, they only sell the top two grades of beef, USDA Choice and Prime. They also sell organic meats, natural beef. They got pork, they've got chicken, they've even got non-traditional meats like bison as well. We love our friends over at Ingles. They do a lot to support us, so we want you to support them as well. Stop by your local Ingles Markets, where you'll get low prices and love the savings.
I'm Tony Desiri with your sports update on
Final few moments of Wire to Wire. This is show 45. Diesel? Is that right?
46.
Oh, I was off by one.
See, you didn't count Friday because we aren't here together. That's sweet that you're not
I
counting
didn't
the show if we're
consider
not
it a
both
show.
on it.
That's it. That's what it was.
Oh.
And I was just making sure you could read. So show 46, baby. 46, 46.
See, we
know
can
it.
math.
We can.
Matt
Matt
he said earlier, I'm laughing that you guys are trying to figure out how to multiply 7 times 3.
Listen, I'm not a math guy. I have no shame.
Hey, what we were doing was we were multiplying 30,000 times 7.
Yeah, that's a lot of zeros.
We're just making sure that we got the whole thing right, okay?
I have never claimed to be a math guy. In fact, I struggled with math in college, Diesel. And, I have no shame. Like, I have no reason to want to be good at math. So you can have your math.
Prayers for all of you trying to teach your kids core math or whatever it's called now.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. Don't understand it.
So I don't know if I fell for the bait or not, but during the commercial break, I had the ESPN Bet show on, Diesel. And the fella that does that show seems like he's pretty good at his job. I do watch frequently because I am interested in spreads and over-unders. He said something very interesting. We talked about Mavs Celtics tonight earlier in the show, Diesel. You and I did. The Timberwolves they're a very good team. And I'll tell you what I do think is a very likely possibility. Even though Dallas is up 3-0, I do agree with what the guy on ESPN Bet said. He said to take the Timberwolves in the money line tonight, which means the Timberwolves to win. I don't think a team as good as Minnesota gets swept. So I fell into the trap and I put a little cheese on the Minnesota Timberwolves money line, which is even money. So the amount that you're risking is the amount that you're going to win. I have a theory that a good team is going to find a way to win one game. I may be wrong, but that's what I'm banking on tonight. So we'll see if I'm right or wrong. The Braves tonight, they are, Washington. Again, Braves fell last night. Max Fried on the mound tonight for Atlanta as they take on the Washington Nationals at 7:20 p.m. They have lost 3 of the last 4. So we'll see if they can get things together. 4 teams from South Carolina made the NCAA tournament in basketball. Just getting you caught up on a few quick hitters. These are the teams that made the regional: Clemson, South Carolina, Coastal Carolina, and the Wofford Terriers going dancing.
Yeah, it's odd to see Coastal Carolina in this thing, and you feel for the players down there at College of Charleston. Won over 40 games, got snubbed, man. It's tough to see that happen. Thanks for listening to the show. Thanks for watching the show. If you're doing so on any of the platforms where you can stream us, we'll be back to do it again tomorrow right here on the Fan Upstate.